What is going on with you folks? We are back here for another edition of Talking Boxing History because we always do that. Random 86 random, whatever you want to call it. We do the thing right here. My dog is in here to mix with us as well. So we appreciate everyone who is here with us. Those that will be joining, we're going to be talking boxing history. I have special guests as noted. Random Acoustic Thoughts. What's going on with your random? How's it going, buddy?
Big up, Josh City. How you doing, brother?
Hey, hang it in there. I can't complain, I always
That's
love
what's up.
being able to chat about boxing history, us being able to do our thing. We're going to be talking about that, all that good stuff. So, hey, this is another edition right here. Shout out to the final boss. The final boss, he actually recommended this one, a discussion on the top English fighters of all time, or just English fighters in general of all time. I think we can just discuss them. So, cheers to TFB. It's always great to be in discussion and chatting with you. So we're going to be talking about the English boxers now. Think about it, folks. And we talked about it a little bit on our last broadcast or whatever. We were talking boxing history last time out. English. So think about that from England. So not the UK in general, but we're going to be talking about some of the top boxers or boxers, some favorites, whatever it may be, from England. And England probably, that's one of the more famous cities or country. Well, yeah, I guess cities more so, but sort of like a city in some sense, you know what I'm saying? Sort of like a city, but a state But we think about it, England is just top tier, but it's very famous here just across the globe when you just think about it, from boxing and boxing history in general. You think about the U.S. So when we think about, I'll say it like this: we think about the U.K. Or it's country, but when we think about the UK in general, we think about Wales, we think about England, we think about freaking all those that involved, of course, Northern Ireland, we think about Scotland, and we know each of them have had some pretty dynamic, great historic boxes over the course of history, and we want to highlight some of the favorites, some of the greats that we've seen that come out of England there specifically. And I did know kind of from a city standpoint, but I know it's bigger than that. But here in the U.S., for instance, we'll have some states and cities that are broader, bigger, and more known and famous in the sport of boxing than others. So it's the same across the globe. You think about the Philippines, for instance. You think about Manila. Of course, they're gonna have a lot of they're gonna have a lot of historic individuals that are tied to Manila. You think about General Santos City, Manny Pacquiao right there, So we're kind of doing something like that, but we're thinking England. So we're talking English boxers specifically, not the UK, Great Britain as a whole, but English boxers. And there have been some damn good ones that have come out of England, and we're going to be talking about them there, per usual. We appreciate everyone in the mix. So we have some who've jumped in as well. Dan the Man, appreciate you there jumping in. Dan the Man says, Dan Man says, yo ho ho, bottle of rum. Drink the devil has done for the rest. Yo ho ho, what a bottle of rum. I got you there, Dan. Dan the Man. Be sure to check out Dan the Man, folks. A steward of history himself there. Appreciate you there, Dan. Always in the mix, showing love there. Shout out to Neo Boz. Neo Boz says, salute, bro. Salute there to you, Neo Boz. Be sure to check us out. We're going to do boxing shit. Let's shoot for it this Friday, Boz. I had forgot last time around. Well, let's get it there. Boz in the mix. Be sure to go follow Boz as well. Show him some love. Hey, follow Random Acoustic Thoughts as well. You see it there at Random Acoustic Thoughts, And hey, of course, he does his thing with the guitar and all that stuff. So we want to highlight that as well. So that's where the name comes from. Of course, we talk boxing history as well. So shout out to Random Future Thoughts. Be sure to go like, follow, subscribe to his page, all that good stuff. 16 men at the beginning above there, Dan mentioned. Shout out to Mr. Greek himself. So let's talk about my guy Joshua right there holding it down there. Appreciate you. Says Mendoza, the greatest of all time. Mendoza, I don't have an actual placard card on him specifically, but yes, he is on that thumbnail. One of the best there for sure. for sure there. So appreciate you there, buddy. Who we have here? Oh yeah, John Ortega. Hey John, appreciate you dropping out there, buddy. Ted Kid Lewis, Freddie Welsh, Jack Kid Birds. Man, hey, so many I don't have a little placard for right there. But you mentioned the man there, John Ortega. Be sure to go check him out, folks. Hey, appreciate you dropping by, buddy. But that's actually who we're starting with there. Random acoustic thoughts. We're starting with. We discussed it. We talked about it, and we wanted to start with, hey, when you think about English fighters, I mean, really gets no better than Kid Lewis, the Allgate Spinks there. Random acoustic thoughts. I'll let you take it from here because I've been talking forever, just going on with a whole bunch of stuff, though. What's going on now with you, buddy?
Yeah, man. Ted Kid Lewis. It would be easy to, if you were making a list of the greatest English-born fighters, you could make a really good argument that this is the guy. This is the absolute governor.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have a clean record, like a win-loss record where it's all so clean, and it's more a career that needs to be seen in the context of his year-to-year activity, because there are no fight records this big that are clean. You know, like you can go, we've seen guys go 20, 30, 50, maybe even more fights in a row without a loss. But in the professional ranks, we don't have that in the pros that go up. This is a gigantic career. How many did he have? He had like 300, just over 300 fights, right?
Yeah, 301 is what is noted there. But we talk about it all the time. Surely there were probably more than that were taking place that we just don't know of.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I don't know the last time or when the most thorough going over, if someone's even done a research job on him since all these archives got more robust, the newspaper archives, because some guy, like, not so much for Langford himself, but in researching Langford, I was finding fights for some of his opponents, like Larry Temple and stuff, like finding quite a few fights, especially early in their career, that just aren't on any list. But no one had really gone in and done a number. So, I mean, Lewis is more famous than Larry Temple, but yeah, so like this quite possibly had more of it. He had 46 losses out of the 300 fights, which sounds like a lot, but it's not actually that high of a percentage, which is crazy. Like if you look at the fight careers that went that long, that many fights, a lot of them have those kind of numbers drifting around, plus or minus, like, because if you have 30 fights in a year and you lose 4, okay, so there's 4 losses onto your tally, but you went, like, do you have that graphic? I think I shot you a graphic, right?
Yes.
This is the best way to interpret. I mean, he had major fights, so that's obviously the other way to look. What are the big matchups? But it's also just like, how much was this guy fighting in the sport? Yeah, there we go.
Yes, indeed.
So that's him and his main rival, his famous rival, Jack Britton, who's an American. On the left column there, that's Ted Kid Lewis's. So I took for each year of his career and I put his record for his overall record at the end of the year. And then on the right side in parentheses, I put just that 1 year record. So in his first year, he went 3-2-1. His second year of boxing, he went 16-4-3. And in Ted Kid Lewis's third year of boxing, 1911, he went 48-3-4 in a year. 48 wins in a year. Yeah, someone mentioned Freddie Welsh. He was actually Welsh born. So we're going with English born boxers here.
Yeah,
which means we lose a Freddie Welsh. We gain a Joe Calzaghe, who was born in London. So it's a little.
That is right. I forgot to do a little thing on him.
Yeah, but you can see with Ted Kid Lewis, so like, if you go down and just look at the right side in parentheses, that's each season. He's fighting a real season of fights. And then toward the very end of his career, his last quite a few years, he's not having as many fights, but his version of slow is like 6 fights, 7 fights. It's not slow by today's standard. That was him backing off, where he had money. He didn't need to fight as much. He was a bigger name. He'd get a better return on his investment of time and risk. But these guys are. So if you talk about how do you build a name, well, after 4 years of boxing, he had over 100 wins already. He was 101, 13-8 after 4 seasons of boxing. So it's hard to even compare him to Like none of those years were undefeated, but it's like, you're thinking, how many fights was that he had? So he had 122 fights in 4 years.
Just phenomenal between him and Jack Britton both. When you look at it, they're just insane. Really, the numbers are insane.
And that's why, like, they had a famous rivalry. And yeah, I agree with whoever just said he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. I mean, if you
No doubt.
just looking at like greatness in the sport and what it means, like I guess the way I think of it sometimes is if you took the NFL season, right?
Right.
And you changed the rules so they only play 3 games a year, right? And then you're trying to compare great teams or players from when they're competing 3 times a year with what you have now for the season, how many games they play now in the season and the playoffs. And it's hard to draw a direct comparison because you can have a much cleaner record without accomplishing as much or without us finding as much numerical success, but it can be cleaner. So like in today's boxing, because of the promotional cycle, not having losses is very important. Especially like if it's a bad loss and the highlight's going to follow you everywhere. It's the internet age. So even more than just the TV age, now it's the internet age. You'll be a meme. You can't get away from those memes. There are guys who, the thing that happened that made them infamous or the event that became a meme predates the internet, but they've become one since because it's so perfect. And there's so many, it's such a great analogy to real life, boxing, combat sports. So
Yeah.
even guys who are out of the game and passed away before the internet came around aren't safe from So like it's different now. You don't want to have losses. You don't want to have embarrassing moments. But back then in his day, to build a name, you had to get in there. You wanted to be in the newspaper all the time.
Yeah.
So every time someone's opened the newspaper, they're either reading about you just booked a fight or you just had a fight or you're about to have a fight. You know what I mean? Like, and that's how you become present in the minds of during a packed, like a sport that had a lot of heroes, all the way from local, all the way up to international. And he put that work in. So I think that deserves special respect. And that the record that he kept across that many fights is impressive.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. No, appreciate that, Random. And yeah, I think that was a good one to start with there. Ted Kid Lewis. And what I was trying to convey earlier, basically, we're talking English boxers there, folks. And Ted Kid Lewis is from London, one of the greatest cities there just across the globe in general, right there. London, one of the greatest cities in boxing in general, and a bunch of neighborhoods that have sprouted about London neighborhoods, areas, and all that stuff. I was trying to convey it earlier. I was saying all types of stuff, but that being said, yeah, London. So England in general, man, one of the great boxing countries there. And what I want to convey is when I think about guys like Ted Kid Lewis, and I think about the city where he's from, when I think about him being from London, that particular area, and that stands out. And what I wanted to convey was there's such great cities out there across the globe, just in general. In London, that's, that has to be one of the top, certainly one of the top 10, maybe top 5 or even higher fighting cities right there. When you just think about it across the globe in general, right there, maybe top 2 or 3, realistically speaking. We think about a number of the greats that have come out of London specifically, just that's mind blowing to think about right there, Excuse me. And also, real quick, I want to shout out the Greek had mentioned there, James Figg as well there. And Random, if you're still there.
Yeah, I mean, what'd you say, brother? The last thing you said?
Oh, yeah. But I was pointing out how London is just one of the top. It has to be one of the top. I said it's top 10, most certainly top 10. Top 5, in all likelihood, one of the top 5. But realistically, maybe top 3 to 4 cities just across the globe, as far as if you boil it down to a fight city. London, they've produced some of the greatest fighters in the history of fighting, boxing, however you want to call it, or whatever. Just and I think that is sort of mind blowing in itself. So talking about England, which is what our discussion is centered on, English fighters, those from the country of England, and of course we had some mentioned who are like Irish, Wales, all of that stuff. Different fighters that are from Great Britain, UK in general, all that stuff. But that being said, if you just really boil it down to even just London, England, that's got to be one of the most premier fight cities as far as the amount of legends that have been produced that are London born,
Yeah, it seems that way. England was like, there was a lot of weight over there for boxing for a long time. In the gloved era, it seems like the US has dominated most of the gloved era just by numbers and where the money was at for the big fights. This goes all the way back. But there was a time when England was like at the center of things. And the time I'm studying, the early 1900s, it was still quite a force. And unlike America, they had sort of a commission of sorts. They had the National Sporting Club, which pretty much just set the rules for England. Like that was the main club, and they pretty much decided who was or wasn't this or that. And then and Langford competed there a few times. One of those times he won the English heavyweight championship, but then he didn't really defend the claim, and they ended up not having a heavyweight champ until they brought in the Lonsdale bouts. But that was done through the club as well.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Anthony's got a point about what's up, Anthony?
Oh, yeah. Cheers there, Anthony.
Undefeated streak. Yeah, and it depends how they respond to losses, because out of context, there are guys who've had great careers, right? Prince Nassim, right? Hamed. But then a loss and then the win after the loss, like disproportionately affected their mindset. So they had a different kind of, like that undefeated thing was powering them a lot, or it was something they were able to build off. Other guys, a loss is just the beginning of their learning. A lot of great fighters who lost their first pro fight, or within a few pro fights had already suffered defeat. Yeah, it depends. I do think like the idea just like never been beaten is a very relative term. On its own doesn't mean anything, because I've never lost a boxing match as a pro. I've never had one, but I'm also undefeated because I've never, you know what I mean? So in like, it doesn't mean anything. I'm as undefeated in boxing as Marciano was. In fact, he lost as an amateur. I don't have any amateur losses in boxing. It doesn't mean anything on its own. So yeah, but how someone responds to losses, and we do see people get credit for avenging losses or improving on their results, right, Josh?
Oh yes, no doubt about it. And all wins and losses are not created equal. I've said this. I've stated this. Just because someone is undefeated, that doesn't make them the greatest fighter of all time. You can pick it through pretty much any and everyone. You can find something, this, that, tit for tat, or whatever it may be. But essentially, the fight game in itself, hey, it's a fight by fight basis right there. You could catch someone who's coming off of the best camp of performance, or has that right point of motivation that they need on any given night. And in particular, that night you face them, that might be the best version of them, where everything clicked, all came together, and they're on game right there. A la Buster Douglas is just a combination of things that had him poised and locked in on that night when he defeated Mike Tyson there in Japan, 42-1 underdog right there. That's just one story, but we have countless amounts of those, right? So, and I've said it before as well, if you fight long enough against a high level of competition, you're going to eventually lose. That's everyone. So some people, they're smart enough to know, okay, you know what? This is the right time. I'm going to retire, and I'm not going to come back, and some people get enticed by the financial gains and all of that stuff. But that being said, some do retire. They don't come back. Joe Calzaghe, Andre Ward, you have a number of others who've done it as well, who've retired and not come back. Marvin Hagler, he retired, he didn't come back, right? Then you have
Marciano was offered a lot of money to try and come back.
Yeah, Marciano, another one. He retired, he didn't come back, right? James J. Jeffries for a long time retired. He ended up coming back, right? So, of course, certain trust me, anyone can lose. It just depends on the circumstances. Every fight is its own individual fight. It's a fight by fight basis. Shout out to my man Irvin Trey Pound Fuller. We were chatting about that here yesterday, just how every fight, man, you just never know. So you have to be locked in every time that you go out, because it doesn't come down to records in some cases, because there can be a guy, you look at his record on paper and you think that someone that you can just push over, you'll go in there, you'll handle. But that being said, you don't know what his camp was like, his or her camp was like, and the type of motivation they're coming in with. And when you fight, you get experience right there. So even if there are guys or gals who have losses on their record, that doesn't mean that all of those losses were necessarily blowouts. So you don't know the circumstances surrounding those losses. We see controversial judging, scoring, all of that stuff here as time goes on. So that being said, you just never know. So the record, that's one element of it, but at face value, that isn't the deciding factor on greatness, because we can see there are a number of fighters with amazing records littered through history, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the bulk, the consensus view them as the greatest, bar none or whatever, though there's truly no wrong answer, right? Because everyone has their own preference there. So Ted Kid Lewis, he exemplifies that more than anyone. I mean, the man has 301, what we have documented, at least confirmed official pro fights right there. So how is someone with 60 pro fights going to compare with someone with 301 pro fights? You can't tell me that this person with 60 pro fights necessarily, well, they're clearly not more experienced. And it's any given night, especially if they're the same weight class. You don't know the weight class or circumstances. Ted Kid Lewis, for example, he's someone who fought across multiple weight classes. He's got some pretty crazy names on his resume there. But one of the things that stands out as it relates to that resume as well there, Random, is the fact that it's just not one where it's a single weight class or what. Well, now you got Jack Britton. We're talking welterweight, but you see Maxie Rosenblum, light heavyweight, George Carpentier, light heavyweight, Benny Leonard, lightweight. You just look at the variety of weight classes there. Willie Ritchie, former world lightweight champion. So this isn't just like he was just fighting in one weight class his whole career. So he was often in time. The variety is insane, in terms of the amount of individuals that he was in with, and the weight classes that, he scaled there.
Yeah, precisely. And, it's like when you fight someone in a fight, experience does count, but you're not actually fighting the resume. You're fighting the guy themselves, the man or woman themselves on that particular night. So anything can happen in a fight, which is why we want to see the fights. We don't want to guess, because if it were easy to guess, it wouldn't even be fun. We just like, oh, we know what's going to happen. Combat sports is not like that. That's why it continues to thrill all these generations later, is we don't know. But like within the giant careers, there are some resumes that are tougher than others. Ted Kid Lewis has a tough one on the scale of things, not just who he fought, but how many times he fought some of those guys. So it's not just, here's the different people I was in the ring with. It's like, no, I had a whole series with this guy. So his rivalry with Jack Britton is legendary. One of the great, probably a top 3 rivalry in boxing history. I mean, it would depend who you asked and how you're measuring, but they had a whole slew of fights in an important weight class in a rich era. These guys were like getting it on. They're great individually and then had the great rivalry. So that does count a lot. But I think, yeah, for me, as far as English-born fighters, he's the highest on my all-time list. He's inside my top 10.
Yeah, and hey, I think that's worthy right there. Matter of fact, there, Random, shout out to the Greek there. He's mentioning some people. He had brought up James Figg. I guess James Figg, yeah, he's really a pioneer of it. So certainly one of the orchestrators, the leaders, when you think about the fight game there, from an English standpoint, was he. And I believe it was Fig that was behind the London prize ring rules, really. One of the orchestrators of it there, if I'm not mistaken, there, Greek. And he mentions Pierce. You mentioned Pierce the number of times, but yeah, Pierce was a beast. You mentioned James Belcher. We talked about it kind of in the last one as well there briefly. I was talking about the fact that there's a movie out there, and it's from it might have been like late 2010s or early 2020s. But there's a movie on James Belcher, and Pierce is in there, a character depicting him. I thought the movie was pretty good there. But that being said, I haven't dove into that realm of the fight game to that degree. So I'm sure there were some sort of depictions that may have been interesting or off in some sense, maybe even from a fighting style standpoint. But they were going through some of the English championship times there that were happening there in essentially London prize ring rules. And James Belcher and his whole situation, his story is pretty crazy as well. But Pierce was undefeated, and he fought Belcher. I believe it was post eye injury Belcher, because Belcher had an injury playing, I want to say it's handball or whatever, where you're slapping a ball across the wall or whatever, something like that. And he received an injury right there, but he was held in high regards. James Belcher was a beast right there. And I think we were talking about this last time as well. Shout out to Dan. He mentions Fig, Broughton, Slack, Jim Mace. Is it Slack that was Belcher's, I believe, grandfather or something like that? Or at least someone was noted to be Belcher's grandfather who fought, I believe it was Slack. But that's a different world in itself right there. Thinking about it random, but it certainly must be mentioned because we're talking boxing. But that being said, when you get into the London prize ring rules, boxing, and then even just bare knuckle in general, there are those that mentioned, as I think Greek mentioned it earlier, Joshua there mentioned Daniel Mendoza, and he was one of the greats there that started things early on. He was a middleweightish type guy, which was generally kind of common around those times, as far as, and this was discussed as well, middleweights were, or at least once you got beyond sort of that 150 whatever range and you were in the 160s, you were generally considered a heavyweight during some of those older eras there. But Daniel Mendoza, one of the greats, he had a good mix of everything from speed, power, skill, and all of that good stuff. And he was a champion back in the day. This would have been the 1700s, right? If I'm not mistaken, 1700s-ish and all of that stuff. So it's either 1700s or very early 1800s, but I believe it was 1700s and all that stuff. But we don't have actual photos or anything of those, the likes of Mendoza, Fig, all of that stuff. You only have sort of depictions that were through some form of artistic rendering, whether that's watercolor painting or something or whatever it may be that they use to actually depict these individuals. But we do have accounts of what they look like just based on that as well. So they're definitely worth noting there, Random McKissick thoughts, because it does go back, and we did discuss it as well, like the likes of Tom Cribb. You know, I forget where Tom Cribb is from specifically, but it could be England. Does anyone know? Someone out there?
Sure it's English, but I don't know the detail.
I don't know
much at all about the pre-gloved era, so I almost never speak on it because I don't want to. I don't have one front. There's too much history, and I'm not even a novice in that era. I'm nothing. I know nothing.
There's a guy. Shout out to Darren Dobson. He runs the ungloved era page on Facebook. But Darren Dobson, he knows, and I need to get him on one of these days and talk to him. But he knows a lot about that. He's on Facebook for sure. I think that's where he's on majoritarily. I haven't kind of chatted with him in a minute, but I need to do so. But that ungloved era, it's a world of its own. I haven't tried to like purposely dive into a high degree because much like, of course, the sport now compared to when Ted Kid Lewis or someone was fighting, right? It's very different. So that ungloved era was very different, much to how BKFC, which has reemerged or emerged from sort of bare knuckle standpoint here in modern times, is different than, of course, regular boxing, right? Just different athletes that are involved. Though you see some older boxers who have transitioned there and they're having some success, which is understandable. But that being said, there's so many differences there. So I'm with you as well there, Random. I'm not versed enough myself in that ungloved world. Shout out to Miter Spain. He knows a good deal about it as well. Likely, I know he knows more than I do about that world, but certainly worth mentioning. Joshua seems to know a good deal of it just based on not just here tonight, but interactions over the years. So he's dove into it a good deal as well. And Joshua mentions my favorite bare knuckle fighter is Henry Hand Pierce, who became a superhero when he climbed burning building in 1805, hopped in the building and saved a servant girl as a champ. That's pretty dope right there. I know who you're talking about there, Joshua. If I'm not mistaken, right? He is the one. If I'm not mistaken, he's the one that fought Belcher, right? And he was undefeated. I think he may have retired undefeated, right? And he was a hell of a fighter there during those times. So 1805. Okay, so this would have been the late 1700s, early 1800s, around that time when he was in there. So that tells me that I believe Mendoza was before that. So that would have been like 1700s. When Mendoza was doing his thing right there. So that shows you the scale and time frame. But boxing is well documented when you think about some sports, and it's been around for a long period of time. So much love there to the sport of boxing just in general. But I know, Joshua, you would know Pierce. He fought Belcher, right? Okay, yeah. So Joshua, I see, Joshua mentioned that. Okay, good stuff there, Joshua. Appreciate you sharing that stuff. Yeah. But they had a hell of a fight right there. I remember it's depicted in that movie. I'll have to look up the name of it, folks, but definitely check it out. I think if you're just a fan in history in general, you'll be entertained by the movie, despite the, regardless of the semantics, sort of, if you're looking at it from a technique standpoint, because one of the things that comes about, how did those guys fight that time? Despite the pictures, these were all poses. When you see those fight pictures where an individual is posed like that, that's not saying that some didn't take that pose and that was what they operated from, but this was very much a posing type picture. So that's why you see that in terms of a lot of the old school pictures there. But that's what it gets down to. Yeah. And Random, you know that. So that's what it gets down to when you're looking at,
I should mention, if I may,
like that, their actual fighting style. And sometimes it's more modern than what would have been the case if you were there during those times watching it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And, that's good of you to mention, because that manner of posing remained popular after it was no longer practical. Once you're wearing gloves, you're less likely to smash your hands up punching someone in the head more frequently. So then it became, for guys who didn't have pinpoint precision, who could keep their hands safe, they have more opportunities to hit the head, without paying the ultimate price, breaking your hand. And but that pose, that style of posing carries on. So you'll see guys who had their fight style had nothing to do with it. Striking that pose is one of the ways people pose. But throughout time, there are other famous styles of posing that went through a fad, where you see lots of fighters posing in the same kind of way. It's some of that's like how they're being depicted for the newspaper, or a particular photographer like that. That editorial team liked a certain kind of thing. I mean, it's not just guys showing off their fight pose. Now I have a lot of clippings of people showing off their fight pose. Some of them did fight hands down. One, your arms don't get as tired. Two, if you're involving a lot of slipping and bobbing, you don't necessarily have to always have your hands up. We saw Calzaghe was able to get away with that. You can go back and see guys like Jimmy McLaren and Tony Canzoneri. They don't have to always cover the face, because sometimes they know with a little bit of this, you can't hit them anyway if they see it coming. So, but there are fighters I've got pictures of where they're in a fight pose, and it's just like today. I mean, they're covered.
Oh, yeah.
They're covered, like someone's trying to punch them in the face and they're ready for it. Like they got their high guard. but it's also like different approaches as the gloves and the rules and the equipment changed. Different things become optimal, and that sort of feeds into fight styles. What's best, but we do see some commonality. Like you see a lot of fighters today, if they got really good reflexes, then they got their backhand, they're stuffing punches with that hand, batting them away, right? And you got that counter hook, you can, or even a stiff jab if you get the right angle. Like, but you can, that rear hand is doing stuff just like Joe Louis was doing, just like Sam Langford was doing, going back and going back and back. You don't have to make that many jumps as far as to see that goes all the way back. The idea of the cross arm guard. If the uppercut's too much, you just got to stop that artillery from below. You know, that's not hard for people to figure out when there's money involved. We have a foundation of science and knowledge to build on now, but people are people. People have been smart when there's money at stake. So they knew how to fight. It just depends on the rules. And so relating it back to the fight pose, there was a time when like that lower hands and like that underhand thing, especially if body shots are so important, you want to get under the elbows. You know, you want your forearm curling that way. You want to dig up under there, right? You don't have anything stopping you, but knuckle on flesh. That was optimal, but it didn't stay that way. And in the gloved era, you know, if you were fighting with your hands down, it just needed to be on purpose, and it needed because you had the movement. Otherwise, you're just going to get clocked with someone's best combo. You can be in the takeout line, you know, for number 3. So that's, you know, but that's always been true. It's still true today. Combination of offense and defense. Even something like the Philly shell, right? Different versions of the Philly shell, because like you could say Floyd's use of the Philly shell and some other guys, some other fighters, it would be a lot different. Like James Toney. Those are different versions of the same thing. They have a different equation at play.
Vinny Briscoe, for instance, and he came up last time.
Yeah, nice, good one. Yeah, like different, and they're like it's all blends of things. You know, people have preferences. They pull out different looks in the same fight sometimes. Part of Calzaghe's strength, one of his strengths was he could adapt in the fight. So that's sort of like certain fights were going against him. He was fiery, right? Like if you get when he did get knocked down, he came up firing. But he was also able to make adjustments. Did it in the Kessler fight, most notably. Yeah. Where he's fighting another undefeated champion. The guy doesn't know how to lose either, and he's catching him with these uppercuts. And then Calzaghe made the adjustment within a few rounds. That wasn't there for him anymore for most of the rest of the fight. So
and I guess technically he would count, like you said there, English-born. Well, yeah, English-born fighter though.
We do Calzaghe?
Well, yeah, Calzaghe, yeah. And I did, and we were talking about that. I didn't even realize it because I always just naturally associate him with Wales, but he was actually born in England, which is crazy, right, folks? When you think about it, Joe Calzaghe, what we tend to associate him being one of the Welsh greats, British greats, just in general, but born in England. Believe it or not, there, folks. Joe Calzaghe, born in England. Random, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think his dad's Sardinian. Is it Enzo from Sardinia?
Yeah, Enzo Calzaghe. It might be the case.
Yeah, technically born in London. So for the purposes of this conversation, he makes it in, and he's my favorite. Full disclosure, everybody, he's my favorite, like modern fighter, for a few reasons. But I don't actually pound for pound all time. I don't rate him that high because the resume isn't deep enough.
And that's where that type of stuff comes in.
I just want to bring that up though, because a lot of people can't take that with their own favorites. Their own favorites may have a better shot at the argument, you know. But like success and not losing is awesome. But you know, when I rank, I'm ice cold. I don't have any favorites when I rank because it's unfair to anyone else. So Calzaghe, like now it's at 168. I think he has a really good argument to be the greatest of the established 168 bracket. But as far as fighters of that size, fighters in between middleweight and light heavyweight, again, all time, there are too many guys who are in that weight range that have deep resumes. But and this isn't a diss Calzaghe. Obviously, I wouldn't diss the guy, but I get excited about him. But just you know, sometimes your favorite guy, it's a separate criteria than the greatness. Like so, he beat Roy Jones up, right? Yeah, and who was past his prime, and Calzaghe was too. You know, but
both.
But that doesn't mean he has a better career than Roy Jones or that all time he ranks higher. Same with Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah.
Like I rate B-Hop over Calzaghe easy all time. pound for pound, even with the losses. So you look at who he fought. Start putting them, and that's so guys like Ted Kid Lewis. He had so many big fights in his career, along with all these several hundred other fights, that you just can't. You put him next to a normal resume, and they quickly run out of major fights, and he's still going, still going, still going.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
And that's the nature of the game, you know, especially because boxing, because we're just talking about even going back to before they had the gloves on. And man, it's the history runs so deep there that it makes it one of those things that, yeah, that you can't definitively just put, yeah, or you can, of course, but from an opinion standpoint, but from a definitive standpoint, there's just so much history, so many differences and all that stuff. It makes it challenging to be so definitive in one particular area or what it may be, especially from a recency standpoint, because some of those guys back then is just very much different there. Random, real quick, shout out to my man Remy, sent that super chat. Hey, appreciate you there, Remy, always holding it down, always doing the thing there. Remy, let me give you an applause. My guy Remy there. Hey,
nice. That's what's up.
Bet there. Appreciate you there, Remy. Always coming through, showing some love. Fan of the history, store of the history. Be sure to go check out his channel. He does his thing there as well. Check out Remy ROS. He sponsors some fighters, all that good stuff right there. He does his thing. So appreciate you, Remy. Coming through.
Josh, Josh, can I do a shout out?
Oh yeah.
We're talking about some of these great English fighters. The Boxing Librarian's done a Ted Kid Lewis. Like a career, if you're curious about what, like a career narrowed down to important fights, his latest ream of statistical videos highlight the important fights, which is hard to know if someone hasn't studied the various eras. It's hard for me. So if you're looking for a resource, that's a good place to go on his channel. And he's done others. I'm pretty sure he's done Owen Moran and some other guys that we'd be talking about.
Oh yeah.
I think he already did. Anyway, I won't get into the details, but I just shout out to the Boxing Librarian, one of the people who inspired me to get into research. And shout out to Scrapbook Boxing, who was my other main inspiration. And also you have a heavy continuing influence 86 with everything you're doing. Keeps me fiery. So I appreciate you very much, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh no,
I just don't know much.
All those names are synonymous with us talking boxing history right there for sure.
Well, I learn a lot because I get in grooves, and I just have certain grooves I run in. So when I'm talking to you, I'm learning a lot every time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Hey, likewise, I'm learning a lot. We're learning a lot from the people that are in the chat as well. So appreciate everyone who's in the chat. Real time. Yeah, shout out to everyone who's there.
Give them a round of applause, Josh.
Hey, everyone in the chat, you do deserve a round of applause. Let me do that right there. Let me see what I can get you right there. Give you a round of applause out there. You know, from the likes of the Greek, Dan, Anthony, everyone who's sharing their stuff. Josh Taylor, he comes to you name it. Everyone who's in here to mix right now. But we appreciate everyone who comes in and shares this good history content and all that stuff that we get to discuss and all of that stuff. So this is a universal thing as far as it's not just the two of us, the boxing history community, it's boxing history in general. So it's everyone who's involved. Some may not be here talking about it on live like this, but they're in the chats, in the comments, on the channels, you know, doing their thing right there. You know, it's different for everybody. You know, I don't know everything. There are people, if you go look through some of the videos and comments and live discussion, you'll see some people who have been around far longer than I've been on this earth who know a great deal about the history of the sport. And some of them, believe it or not, were in the mix there, in and around the sport at that particular time. And I love hearing it. There are different people on the channel who share insights, share some of these great stories. Guys like Vinny, shout out to you, Vinny. Kid Gavalan, at least that's his name on this particular thing. Well, the guy who's 80 years old, who's on the channel, makes comments and all that stuff, and shares some great historical stuff. They're not the only ones. There are plenty of them. David Abney, you name it. I could keep going on and on, but this boxing history stuff, it goes far deeper than myself, far deeper than Random Acoustic Thoughts. It's just widespread, extensive from a historic standpoint. And even some of those that are in here now, Dan, Joshua, etc., that are sharing some of these great information regarding some of these historic things that have taken place there. Anthony mentions, according to Wikipedia, the cities in the British Isles overall include Ireland and Ireland. Now that certainly, no, that is true. So that would expand upon things there for sure. That would expand upon things. So that it
London
is
and
what it is.
Belfast, huh?
We went English. Yeah, we went English from the standpoint of England specifically. But yeah, it does get tricky. When you just look at it from there. I mean, all these places are pretty much right there in the same area, right? They're all right beside each other. And it does make it tough there. But yeah, that extends it even further. So there have been so many great and historic fighters just across the board. If we start talking about bringing in those things like Scotland, Ireland, all that stuff, then yeah, it's gonna be crazy. Belfast,
Right.
bringing in spots like that.
Plus, then you get into what about times in history when something was part of the empire?
Yeah, no,
It's like
you're
at
right.
what point do Canadians are just Canadian and not just a British subject?
Yeah,
Because
no, you're
Langford
right.
fought for the English and Commonwealth, combine them.
That makes it
The
interesting.
heavyweight title, and he's Canadian. He's from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, no, that is true. Like if we were to do one like, hey, the greatest Russian fighters in history right there. And if we just look at it over the course of the time, the different shifts in things, USSR, etc., and how some countries on their own independent, but it'd be different if we went further back in time. Yeah, it's
You'd almost have to do like Russia and the former Soviet states.
yeah, right.
So you
Yeah,
can catch everyone in there because where someone was born isn't necessarily even how they identify. Like Fedor Emelianenko, the MMA, the greatest in mixed rules. He's Ukrainian born, but I am Russian. Like he identified.
And
so
that's
like
a perfect example.
It would
right
get
there.
complicated quick.
Yeah. There have been so many great Ukrainian fighters, but yeah, if you go back, I got the video on the channel, Kid Kaplan, one of the greatest Ukrainian boxers. You could argue the greatest right there. But yeah, at the time though, it was under Soviet control or whatever. So yeah, that does add some layers there to it there for sure. But those individuals are not to be counted out or whatnot there, as you noted there, Anthony. We did do one, or I did one random. I can't remember if you dropped by there. You may have dropped by there. I don't think you were on the live or whatever. Like, for instance, I did one on greatest Irish boxers, you know what I'm saying? And that's so extensive in itself right there. Just thinking about if you, and a lot of these spots, they have enough that you can just do them, just do that particular country, or even if we took it to a city, we want to say Belfast, you know what I'm saying?
Ireland produced so many great fighters, like the whole of that island, whatever it's doing politically in a given moment, but like that little beautiful piece of land has produced so many great pugilists, and a lot of them may not be known as Irish born, but like thinking about just as it relates to my Langford research, so like Patsy Sweeney was born in Ireland, even though he was like the top lightweight in New Hampshire, and he was national reputation.
Lloyd Hunnigan.
The Gardner brothers were born in Ireland. George Gardner, the light heavyweight champion. Who lost to another English-born fighter, Fitz, who's from Cornwall. George Gardner was the guy who lost to when Fitz went for history and got that third divisional title. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's that point right there. A
lot of Irish-born fighters made their name over here. In case that wasn't complicated enough, a lot of non-Irish fighters took Irish-sounding fight names for different reasons, and so you get like as like a weird. There's a lot of Irish names out there, even more than there were fighters. But there are a great deal of fighters Irish-born.
Hey, and random, I have to mention this one, Naruto Pelon, or whatever he said. English fighters are not that good, and he also said British fighters have glass chins. Now, some of this could be you could argue it's trolling or whatever, but I want to bring this up because there are those that they don't hold British fighters in the same regard as some other fighters. And you also random, and that's why I wanted to make sure to point this out, because you also have situations where there are some who they associate Britain And yeah, this is going to the British or English fighters, but British fighters in general, they'll associate them with a particular style. You know what I'm saying? And much like we were talking about that picture and that pose, but they'll associate British fighters with a more kind of straight up and down style, a more robotic style in some sense,
Yeah,
right
like
there,
a
Random.
less
So I
something
wanted
with
to
less
bring that
aesthetically
comment up
pleasing.
because I
Yeah,
think
no,
he
that's
could be
fair.
trolling, but he may not be like trolling in the sense that. And I know for sure there are people out there who don't hold English fighters. I'm not one of those. I hold them in a high regard and all of that stuff. And clearly, some of the greatest that we've seen in the sports history have come from uh, Britain, just in general. But there are some who don't view it the same way. There, Red. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think it's like overly broad, obviously, because
Yeah,
fighting is an individual sport, and there's nothing in the national character that English people can't be knuckleheads and tough people. Just
right, right.
look at history. Don't be fooled by the accent, the upper class English accent, I should say. But no, but there are times it might be the unless they're just salty in general, and it's sort of like some jingoistic nationalistic thing. It's maybe that person, the fights they paid attention to, the English fighter didn't put
Mhm.
on the performance, or the certain weight classes or times that they've really locked in. But it really depends about the scene and are they fighting at a high level? Because back in the day, 168, the British Isles were producing most of the best 168 fighters, especially guys who stayed there. Collins,
Yeah,
Ben, Eubank. That was a really written. They weren't. It wasn't just them, but like that was a really pretty rich era. The weight class wasn't that popular over here
yeah,
in the U.S. Perhaps because it was being dominated by European fighters, but so I think it's fair to say that maybe in those matchups that person just wasn't impressed, or like they've seen, whether it's confirmation bias or not, but they've seen that trait that you were talking about, sort of the stereotype about the upright,
yeah,
formulaic, stiff, non-smooth, not very flowing like water. People think like Eubank.
yeah,
Like
yeah. But
he
it's not
fight,
all of them,
obviously,
you
but
know.
he didn't look smooth. He looked like what are you doing, bro? But it's like he was in such great shape,
Right.
and he was dangerous, but it didn't look. It wasn't like movie smooth. He's in a real fight. He looks like he definitely does not want to get hit at all, if possible. But
Yeah.
you look at the record and watch the fights. He could fight. Eubank could fight. He's a very good fighter. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
think it's fine if people want to have a generalized opinion, but it's not. There are no rules like that.
Yeah. It's
People are
not
people.
necessarily the gospel there for sure. No, I'm with you, Redham, and
Well,
also,
wasn't Steve Collins training with Hagler?
oh yeah, he may have been. He may have. I don't know for sure,
I
but
thought he
yeah,
was in.
he may have been.
Yeah, I thought he was
I'm
training
not
with
sure.
Hagler.
I
Steve
wouldn't be
Collins was
surprised. I
super
mean,
middleweight.
no question, this cat was tough as nails, right? We've seen how he operates in there. So
Right. He was. I loved his heart, man. You hit him and he just at these weirdest angles, he just come right back. It was kind of scary. Like, at his best, he was really a hard puzzle. But again, maybe not the way people want to view a top fighter or whatever. I don't know. I mean, there is a presentation, and the fact that America has dominated boxing in the gloved era, just in general, because of sheer numbers
yeah,
of elite fighters and the infrastructure. Yeah, it's not like England's like it used to be, but I mean, you go back to before they were putting the gloves on. Where is
oh
the
yeah,
center of boxing in the world?
oh yeah, it was there. It was there, you know. So
So, so it's like saying, "Oh, the French can't fight." It's like, man, you better go read a history book, damn.
yeah, right, right, right.
Because
No, no,
you're
for
thinking of
sure.
one war where they folded very quickly, and then a bunch of jokes that have been told and stuff like that. But look at the other ones. Even look at the other World War. They can fight.
Oh yes, sir.
Look before that, it dominated Europe for a time. They're like and heavy duty in world affairs. So it's people generalize, and it's funny to do it. You rile up the other side of the whatever equation that is. So I'm cool with it. I don't really care. But as far as a serious conversation, it's just a
Yeah,
fighter to fighter thing. There is no.
yeah,
That's like
and
saying all black fighters do this one thing. It's like, no, they clearly don't. No one does the same thing.
you're
People,
right.
people.
It
It just
varies.
doesn't sound as stupid when you say it about a nationality, but there's no rule unless literally everyone's forced to train with the same coach.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and there's some great British trainers out there. There are great American trainers, great Mexican trainers. There are great Filipino trainers, you name it. You just across the board there. So yeah, it does vary. Shout out to Rocky Mountain High there. He said the shortest book in history is English Dentistry. Lennox Lewis, the best right there. Salute there to you, Rocky Mountain High. But yeah, Lennox Lewis, he's a prime example. He's a British fighter. He's a heavyweight, right? He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. We all know that right there. And if you look at Lennox, you look at peak Lennox, or you could also you could essentially look at Lennox in two different ways. The younger version of him, not only is he big, but he's like a quick, fast guy who could box, and he had that mix of power. He slowed down a bit more as he became one of the older fighters, or as he got older right there. So the last version of Lennox Lewis that you would have seen looked different than the younger version of Lennox Lewis. But man, that dude was fast and explosive for his size and all of that stuff as well. That's why he's one of the greatest of all time right there, for sure. And he's an example. He's a British fighter right there, but meshes well regardless of what era you throw him in. You just look at that combination of size, speed, power, all that he had, and the fact that he was able to adapt this game, not unlike how a guy like George Foreman essentially could adapt this game to the era that he was fighting in the 90s compared to 70s George or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things.
Yeah, George did a great job.
Yeah.
And it went, and like I say, he was bigger, but he was slower. That cross-arm guard was good, though, because he could take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw it in some of those fights. He really took a lot. Most guys just couldn't take that. They physically couldn't go through it. But he had a lot of...
Still, sometimes that's the thing.
He had a strong mentality when he came back. And he was using stuff he picked up, like Archie Moore and stuff like that, like from a master, all-time great of old man fighting. The greatest older fighter of all time, clearly.
Archie Moore, folks.
Archie Moore. It's a short conversation. You could put Bernard Hopkins up there amongst the greats of older fighting, but there's no one like Archie Moore. No one.
Archie Moore. I was thinking about him. Matter of fact, I was thinking about him over this weekend there, random, before we had this discussion. I'm trying to think of the context. Oh, yeah, I was trying to think about it from the context of when we speak about, or this is the way I was thinking of it as far as, because you're talking about, like, I was equating it to, like, basketball and all of that stuff in terms of how you had the GOAT debates and things of that nature, whether that's Jordan, LeBron, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, things of that nature. And I was thinking about, at that particular time, I was looking at Jordan, LeBron, this little discussion. Then I was just thinking about it from the standpoint of boxing, right? And how it's different between them, different type of game and all that stuff. And of course, I think Jordan's the GOAT there. So if you didn't know there, folks. But that being said, it's just like Ali versus Archie Moore. Different fighter right there, but both absolutely greats right there. And Archie Moore, you think longevity and just the amount of sustained greatness that he had as far as being one of the greatest, if not the greatest, older fighter in the history of the sport, and that's taking into account the George Foreman, Bernard Hopkins, and all that stuff. But Archie Moore, one of the absolute greatest older fighters of all the time. Fitzsimmons, who's in your profile picture right there, another one of those guys. So that's different than Ali, who by the time he was the same age as Archie Moore, is just a different style of fighting and all that stuff. But both of these guys, two of the greatest, bar none, right there. Archie Moore, one of the absolute greatest. You can't, in my opinion, you can't have, if you think about the 10 greatest fighters of all time, and you can slice it up any way you want to or whatever, but I just feel like he's got to be in there because he's just so monumental. And it's just different right there. Like Ali, I view the greatest heavyweight, right? And he's great. But then if you separate the weight classes and all of that stuff and just think about things, you think about Archie Moore, man, just absolutely amazing fighter. He started lower, of course, and the fact that you look at the fact that how many knockouts he has, 142, really. I don't know if it reflects it on BoxRec, 142. His daughter, she's on YouTube and all that stuff. I know she coming in on one of my things correcting where I had 132 listed as the knockouts there, but apparently it's 140
Incredible.
realistically, whatever. But that being said, just different style of fighter, and man, but just two absolute greats right there. Archie Moore, man, historic. If you
Yes.
don't know Archie Moore,
The
something's
thing
wrong.
about Archie is in today's, because he fought some great fighters, his most famous fights he lost. So he's
Yeah.
kind of famous for being that guy who lost. But he has such a huge winning style of fighting, and one of the great finishers of all time, as well as one of the great past prime legends. I mean, he didn't have like a second career like Foreman. He just never stopped being elite. Once he became elite, as he moved up the weights, he just
Yeah.
even after he's like, he's a light heavyweight. He's fought his way into contention at heavyweight. That's other guys
Yeah.
have done that, fought their way up into the top handful of heavyweight contenders.
And he primarily
light
had to
heavyweight,
fight
but it's not
in
easy.
he primarily had to fight in other people's hometowns under their conditions, all that stuff. Like true definition of a road warrior.
The real resilience. Yeah, he's another inspirational figure, as far as what he did for boxing. So like for me, he's up there with Ali in that he has a cultural influence and a benefit to the sport influence beyond a fantastic historic resume. But Archie Moore, yeah, man, one of the all-time greats. But sometimes these big fights don't happen so like relating it back to our other English London-born fighter, Calzaghe, he didn't fight the best Roy Jones. He wasn't necessarily the best Calzaghe, although he was maybe more experienced than before, but like, his hands were done at that point. And
that sort of
so you didn't see anything like a prime versus prime, because Calzaghe couldn't hit like he used to when he was younger, and Jones had lost the speed that made him. I mean, there was a lot that made Jones great, but that speed was the vehicle, that the twitch speed. Like, it's one thing to leap with a hook. It's another thing to just teleport your fist and everything attached to it to a chin and look like he's doing it half asleep, like he's just rolling out of bed to go pee or something, and then fly 8 feet forward and hit him with it. Like Jones was, but once he didn't have that, that's different. You don't age the same with different styles. So whereas you see like Hopkins aged really well.
Oh yeah.
Slowing a fight down, that benefits you as you get older, and he was the master. He could, every trick, you name it. He's another guy I think would have done really well in the old school. Hopkins, James Toney and Hopkins. If I got to send some ambassadors back 80 years, though, I might send those to B-Hop and Tony.
Clearly not the most athletically gifted, not the most talented fighter by any stretch or of the imagination, but when you look at the fight game, you take the mental aspect and all that stuff, he was successful because he is the true definition of a fighter, and all things aren't created equal in the sport, whether that's from a stylistic standpoint or whatever it may be. He spent time in prison or whatever it is, where he was learning the trade, all that good stuff, and you see what he was able to do, but he never stopped thinking in there, and that separated him from a lot of the fighters that were in the mix there for sure. When you really think about it.
Yeah, man. Hey, real quick, if I may.
Yeah.
I don't know if, can I highlight a thing? I don't know if.
Does it let you?
It does. Do you mind?
Oh yeah, do it. Yeah, I didn't know.
I've never tried to do this before. Is it showing or is it only on mine?
Yeah, it's not showing. I don't see it.
Oh, it don't matter then. It's no big deal. No, but Lion of the Desert said, without no doubt, Netherlands is the #1 kickbox country of the world. And I just
Lion of the Desert.
You ain't lying, man.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Shout out Lion.
Netherlands, the pound for pound #1 kickboxing country on planet Earth. So many greats. Hey,
Lion of the Desert. Sorry, yeah, we're reading the chat there, buddy. Man, I fall behind sometimes, and then we get to chatting about some other thing we mentioned. No, we appreciate you here, Lion of the Desert. There, yes,
that's
we are
right there. My favorite kickboxers are Ernesto Hoost.
Hoost, I know.
You're talking like, oh my God, Rob Kamen, Sam Schilt, Peter Eriks. I mean, the list of great Dutch fighters is so overwhelmingly massive.
And that dude now,
that's some of the truthiest truth anyone's ever spit in one of your comment sections there, Josh.
I can't think of the name, but the guy that just, I guess, apparently joined the MMA that was doing his thing in the heavyweight. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I can't think of it, but I'm kind of unplugged, man. I don't watch anything anymore. I
But
just
he's the
studied
guy
history.
now versus no, not Verstappen because that's Formula One. But there's a guy I know Flack would know. He freaking knows who I'm talking about. But there's a Dutch guy who he was dominating kickboxing heavyweight now, and I think he just I want to say joined the UFC there. You've probably heard of him, I'm sure.
Well, there's a guy, Alistair Overeem, who's powerful
Oh
in
yeah,
both
yeah,
weight
not
classes.
Alistair. This is
But
a
that's a while ago. He's old
yeah,
now,
this
but
guy now.
he's another powerful
I'm gonna look him up
competitor
actually.
out of there. You know, like it's so deep. But like some like some guys are more remembered more than others. But Rob Kaman on his own, like go watch that. There's some good documentary stuff on
Verhoeven.
him on YouTube. Rob Kaman, man, check that guy out. Holy
Yeah,
shit!
I think it's Rico Verhoeven. I think he was who I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Verhoeven.
yeah. I'm out of the
I'm pretty
loop, but
sure
I wouldn't. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, Dutch
he's
kickboxing, Dutch Muay Thai is powerful.
yeah, he's dominant right now. And he's a Dutch kickboxer. I think he just went to MMA though, or something.
Cool.
But he was like world champion in the kickbox. So yeah, so he fought in July of kickboxing in July 14th, 2025. But I think he's gone over to MMA. I want to say UFC. I could be off right there, but he's 36 and he's absolute beast. He's kickboxing record, so he's 66 and 10 in kickboxing. But he's just been dominant, been clearly the top guy here for the past 10 plus years, I guess you can say, or 10 years for sure. And he hasn't lost in 10 years, over 10 years essentially. And he's like the man right now. His name's Rico Verhoeven. He's a beast. He's a beast there for sure.
I know the name, but I just can't put it all together in my head. I'm not even going to try. I haven't been thinking about kickboxing in recent years.
Oh yeah,
but there was a time when my passion exceeded that I had for MMA, or like in the 2000s, kickboxing was the end of the golden age.
Oh yeah. No
and then a lot of them started going over to MMA, and that's kind of what dragged me over to MMA, was seeing some of the same people. Like they're basically, to my perception at the time, I'm just like, oh look, they're fighting in the little gloves now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those things right there. But no, that is some good stuff. So appreciate you dropping in here and showing that love there, kickboxing, and that's high intensity.
Great observation.
3 rounds.
Let's look at some of these other comments. Dan says,
"Yeah, I'm gonna go through them." Shout out to Remy.
Bro.
Shout out to Remy. There, appreciate you there with the super chat there. Remy always showing love. So shout out to y'all for holding it down for when it comes to boxing history. Hey, we try to do what we do right there. Appreciate you there, Remy. Appreciate Random being in the mix here. Shout out to everyone here in the mix. If you're here right now, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed right there. But we're talking about the history. We try to bring it to you every Wednesday at the very least, and probably even more, just depending on the topics and situations right there. And we've had some other good ones that come about there. So appreciate you being in there in the mix, Remy. Appreciate you, Random, man. Appreciate you there, Remy. Super chat again right there. Appreciate you there, buddy. As always, hey, much love there to you, Remy. Be sure to go follow and check out Remy, folks. Be sure to do that right now. If you haven't done so, please go do so. Please go do so. He's always showing love in the mix. Shout out to my guy, Poppy Chun. Yayo says salute up in this thing. Appreciate you there. Poppy Chun in the mix there. Hey, great to have you in the mix, buddy. Be sure to go check him out there as well, folks. We got some stuff jumping off. Shout out to Bells Deep as well there, as you see in his profile picture there, holding it down there. So more to come, of course. We're gonna have some things jumping off, folks. Yashara, English boxing looks like old school karate systems and license shop boxing kung fu. I see what you're saying. There's a mixture of that in there. Was it in Yashari?
I don't agree, but that's a really good line right there. Old school karate system and incense shop boxing kung fu, because I know what he means. I don't agree, but that is some funny stuff, man. Good lines.
Yeah, no doubt. Shout out Draco. Appreciate you in there. Appreciate you in there, Vix, as well. Draco says, in martial arts and combat, I'm a martial arts combat. Hey, good stuff there. Check him out, folks. Hey, we're gonna check you out there. Yashar Yahawa, that's what it is. There, Yashar Yahawa, right there. Appreciate you dropping by there, buddy. Hey, haven't checked. Appreciate you coming through. Haven't checked you out before, but we're gonna check you out there. Hey, because we checked it out. Random, he's done a number of stuff, number of things on MMA. Some of that is on his channel as well. Especially the stuff that was going on in Bellator, some writing.
I took most of that down, Josh.
Oh, you took most of it down. Okay, most of it is down, but it might be some stuff.
There's
still
almost nothing left. No, because I had to focus on my boxing project.
Okay. But boxing history is certainly there. There's some other
ones for my entertainment. This boxing is like, an academic exercise. It's more important.
Yeah. No, I got you right there. So some of it's down there, but no, we're gonna check you out though for sure. There, Poppy Tune up in here. Dan mentions I watched Sonny Shiba Street Fighter the other night. Okay, good stuff there, Dan. Hey, we seen how Jiro Watanabe. I've heard the Watanabe name in some other references as well. Oh, Yakuza. Okay, I see you there. I see you there. Lion of the Desert says best English boxer ever, Prince Nassim. With no doubt from Amsterdam. Oh, Prince Nassim. Yeah, he was a beast for sure.
Hall of Fame. Lion of the Desert with another good observation. Well done. You're 2 for 2 there.
Yeah,
he's not my favorite boxer, but he was seriously entertaining when he was still winning.
Oh yeah, very much. Crossover star there too as well. Dan mentions Irish put on a Babel and people buy tickets to Irish fighters. Plus most Italian fighters took Irish names due to prejudice. Oh yes, no doubt there. Yeah, you see a mixture of that right there as well. There, Dan. Appreciate you sharing such. Yeah.
There was also people just taking anglicized names. It wasn't always Irish.
Oh yeah,
a lot of German immigrants where they might, like Marvin Hart. I'm pretty sure his last name was Hardt. The German spelling. He just changed to Hart, the Kentucky Wonder. So not really highlighting that, because people would anglicize it, but Irish names were particularly popular because they sound cool and they were associated with a lot of the big stars from the previous generations. We're Irish.
Oh yeah, no, that's good stuff right there for sure. No, that's definitely that definitely speaks volumes in itself. Shout out Dan mentions his friends from the Olympic team at 17. Hey, salute that to you, Dan. I remember you sharing that story last time. That's what I'm saying, folks. We have people in the chats who are locked in, tied into the sport, tied into the history beyond ways you could think right there. So that's good stuff. Yashahar says boxing was brought into the West big levels by the Brits. Hey, no doubt about it there. No doubt about it for sure. That cannot be denied. Dan mentioned Spain never fought in World War I or World War II. Oh, that's an interesting one right there. Thinking about it. Yeah, well, I guess that is the case there. Really, because I've seen a lot of things on it. Yeah, I don't recall them being brought into the mix there. But boxing goes back to the 1st century with the Greeks and Romans. Yeah, there's stuff you can take back. I've seen where there's sort of depictions on hieroglyphs, thinking about it from an Egyptian standpoint as well, where there seems to be some form of fighting, boxing, whatever it could be. So yeah, I have no doubt it goes back. I can only name a couple of chinny dudes: Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Amir Khan. Yeah, some modern cats right there who certainly on the chinny side, on the British side. But yeah,
I mean, I've seen Fury and Joshua take some hellacious shots without going down. Like Amir Khan, maybe that's more accurate. I don't think of those guys as chinny. They're fighting at heavyweight. I mean, if you're 200-something pounds, you got knockout power. It's the size of your body compared to a human chin. But yeah, I don't know if they qualify as chinny.
Oh yeah, well yeah,
they're way more fragile guys because they've been fighting at a high level a lot. So
people do get
cracked. Or maybe I'm wrong.
See the reference. I do see the reference. I certainly Khan and Joshua has had some moments there to change this game. Tyson Fury, he's held up generally, but hey, he got dropped by Steve Cunningham. I remember back in the day, who was pretty much a blown up cruiser. Who
maybe chinny compared to their output danger. Because Fury's got a lot of output danger, and Joshua maybe compared to how much they can take coming back at them. I don't want to be unfair in either direction.
No. I feel you there.
They're just not guys. If you name some chinny guys, I wouldn't think of them, but that's just me.
Certainly not the most chinniest, of course, of that group right there. Associated with Amir Khan, but by that same token, hey, when he fought Marcos Maidana, many thought he was gonna get knocked out, and it looked like he was. And man, that joker found a way to hold on. Somehow he did it. He could turn it on at moment, so it withstood it. But you could definitely tap him in a sense. But but he at the same time has some resilience there to him for sure. So it does make it interesting. Yashar says like my main art is Shotokan karate. America is destroying it, but with the best sport in the world, the Olympics, making it better through karate combat. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've seen Karate Combat Rhythm. I don't know if you've seen that. It's they're in this like it's like a ring. It's almost like you kind of go down a bit.
Oh, is that the one that has not a moat, but that has like the it's
Yeah.
sunken on the edges?
Yeah. And
I've seen some cool highlights from that.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I've seen a little bit more than a few of their events. I've seen a handful of their events in full, and I like the little setup of it and all that stuff. But they do that, and it's like traditional, karate combat, So that's why he's mentioning that. And you see a mixture of different styles, so you can kind of, I guess, throw people down in a sense, but you don't do a lot of groundwork. But it really is on the discipline of striking. So you see those different striking styles or whatever. But this one, I think you certainly would like it there, Rhythm, just knowing sort of your history and being tied to some of the things that revolve around that sort of mixed martial arts community from a holistic combating perspective. I think you might like Karate Combat there. And I like their presentation as well. I think it's pretty cool.
I've seen clips. I don't really have the energy, I don't think, to get really deep into any combat sport at this point. Like my book's kind of taken over my sports aspect of my life, and it's mostly academic, but I have liked what I've seen. I've enjoyed what I've seen. But it's also, I watch a lot of classic stuff, and I'm still catching up on a lot of classic boxing that I never saw the first time. So
okay, good stuff.
My plate is so full, but I do run some great fighters.
It is a lot. It's hard to keep up with all that goes on presently, let alone during other disciplines in the mix there. So no, I feel you 100% there, buddy. But yeah, we definitely want that book. If you didn't know, there folks are here. 86 Boxing, Random Kiss Your Thought. Be sure to hit that like button. Random's working on that book. We spoke about it before. We're going to continue to talk about it. Working on that book on Sam Langford. So folks, be on the lookout for such. And of course, we know that there is the great Connor Moyle Clay Moyle book out there on Sam Langford. But this takes a slightly different approach, looking at the very, very early career ascending of Sam Langford there, Random. So I think this is going to be a welcome treat to the boxing history world there, man.
Yeah, this book hopefully will give people a sense of where he came from and what got him to his prime.
Oh, yeah.
Because his prime is a thing of beauty, and what got him there, what were the setbacks, what were the factors, what were the advantages and disadvantages. He had some disadvantages, right? The color line, obviously, he was poor. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a big support system, like he left home as a teenager, worked his way down, got to Boston eventually. But then he also had some advantages, like his managers ran more than one club in Boston. So he was able to get a lot of fights at a home club early in his career, which is an advantage. And he had a good manager who was plugged in. So there were things that were to his advantage. And I'll just go through all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about his rise, and then, volume 2 would be his prime.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Which is terrifying. But his prime, Clay Moyle did an excellent job about writing about his prime. I felt like there was more to be said about his rise to prominence. Well, he became famous very quickly, but like his rise to where this guy who can still make welterweights got an open weight challenge at heavyweight. And he just dips his toes in the heavyweight division. That's where the book's going. That's the journey.
I'm very much looking forward to it, Rhythm. So much like anything and how we tend to like it. And
I'll send you some chapters. I'll send you some chapters, man. I got some chapters. I sent BL some a little while ago. I haven't sent anyone else. I wanted him to get the first look. But I'll send you a few chapters, man. You let me know what you think.
All right. Hey, it's going to be a welcome addition there, Rhythm. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it there for sure. I'll definitely check it out there. So I look forward to it. But it's going to be a welcome addition there, folks, adding to this great historic sort of accounting of all this taking place in the sport of boxing. Some of the greatest characters, fighters, individuals, patrons, whatever you want to name it, there in the sport because it goes deep. And shout out to Mark Allen Baker. He's working on a book that I know that you all would love. I can't even share. I know a little slight detail on who it's going to be on. You will love it. It's going to be very revealing there. So yeah, we'll see how all of that goes as well there. But no, we appreciate you there. Random Acoustic Thoughts doing things. Shout out to Spell Legacy like Death. I appreciate you there dropping my set. Archie had to last long to get a title shot until he was 38 and dominated since the age of 19. Yeah, pretty crazy right there. Appreciate you there, buddy. Doing your thing there. And mention Jack Johnson as well there. Salute to you. But yeah, Archie, man. Yeah, because Archie, he was in the middleweight. I don't know where he started at, but I feel like he started at middleweight. I don't know if it was below middleweight, but for sure he was fighting at middleweight at one point as well. So let's think about that, folks. We know he went on to fight at heavyweight and all that stuff. And yeah, man, talk about a hell of a career, amazing career. So appreciate you there, Spell Legacy, for dropping by there, buddy. Dan mentions Roy Jones fought another 20 years after Kazagi. That was Kazagi's last fight. About the same age, Kazagi, phenomenal athlete. Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, Roy, he definitely should have stopped fighting there, Dan. He definitely should have stopped fighting, but he did keep going on for what it's worth there for sure. But Kazagi, he do win the call it.
Well, Kazagi also, his conditioning was really good and never, like his version of being out of shape was most guys' highest aspiration for being in shape.
Oh, yeah.
So, like there were fights where he didn't have the same level of frenetic energy, but they were rare, and if he was fighting through injury, sometimes that would impact it. But I mean, he was fighting through injury in the Lacey masterclass.
Oh yeah.
He smacked him around hundreds of times. Like, but he was able to. So his part of his weaponry that lasted through his whole career was his conditioning, his work rate. So even with fragile hands, you can still score points with fragile hands. So yeah, Kazagi was special. He aged well.
Oh yeah,
which is why where people, it's easy to forget, think, well, that wasn't the Roy Jones, which is true. Like in a certain sense, no, Roy was different before. He's faster, but that wasn't really the Kazagi either. That was a guy who couldn't like lay in all power because his hand would go and he wouldn't have it for the rest of the fight. So yeah, it's worth thinking about. He was a hell of an athlete. Stayed in real good shape.
Yeah, no doubt about it there. No, that's good stuff there for sure. Dan mentioned B-Hop never had a beer since junior high school. No, that's good stuff right there. B-Hop did very meticulous when it came to what went into his body or what still goes into his body there. If you look at him now here, even as he's older and he's aged, he's still pretty much in that same like fighting range. You can see he still looks the same. If he needed to go make 160, he's probably pretty much right there. Even at this age, I know he's very meticulous about what he eats, treats his body like a temple in that sense right there. And that's what allowed for him to last in the game longer than a lot of individuals, as we've seen some top out fairly quicker than others right there. So certainly a legend right there.
Yeah, man. B-Hop had a special mentality too, man. He's a real hard man.
Oh yeah, very much.
A lot of the game, who was it he was beating? He started doing push-ups and stuff, you know. He was like
John Pascal, who was younger, he had some years on him, probably a decade on him or something.
Proving a point. He's like, listen here, young buck, I got this for you. But that's the psychology of, which is funny. You see his walkouts and stuff, it's real dangerous imagery, but he wasn't really like a stopping power guy, or that wasn't what his main claim to fame was. But as far as trying to like put a ding in your record, B-Hop was the guy to do it, man. He was scary in that sense. Like, he was a hard puzzle to figure out. He knew all the tricks.
Yeah.
To me, one of the very greatest of the modern fighters.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
Longevity counts for a lot, so you have to draw on different things.
Yeah, of that ilk of Archie Moore and some of the other greats who we've seen be able to do it in multiple eras, multiple decades, and they may lose a step physically whether that's from a speed standpoint, some reflexes, but they know what to do to adjust and adapt their game. They'll slow down. They'll slow the pace to where they need it. They'll understand and mentally stay where they need to be from a placement perspective, and they just know what to do in the ring right there. It's something that comes with experience, but he is certainly one of those for sure there, buddy. Shout out Trey Titan in the mix there. Says great topics, y'all. Appreciate you there, Trey Titan. Trey Titan doing his thing. Always great to have you in the mix there, Trey Titan. Also,
Josh, while we're talking about old man fighters, we gotta whip Fitz back in the conversation real quick.
Oh yeah, right.
Any conversation about that needs to end with him because, he was already a giant superstar, like an iconic name.
Oh yes.
I mean, he was heavy duty before he won the heavyweight crown. When he was the middleweight king, that was a big deal, right? And then he had these fights. He's coming up in weight. He's doing all these exhibitions too. He's like super famous. Wins the heavyweight crown, right? Loses it to James J. Jeffries. But seeing as no one else could beat Jeffries or even hurt him, hardly.
Oh yeah.
Fitz didn't lose much in the esteem of people, in the eyes, just because he couldn't beat Jeffries. People, what they started saying is no one can beat Jeffries. And so
Fitz Adam, Fitz was doing his thing, were it not for this.
But then after all that
Jeffries was,
Right. And then he can't get the title back, the heavyweight title, but then he goes and fights George Gardner in 1903 and takes the light heavyweight title from a very good fighter. What's that?
First 3-weight champion ever right there. He became the first to win a title in 3 weight classes at that point too, right there. Just think about that, folks. Crazy.
Right. And there weren't too many weight classes.
Right.
There really weren't. It really, as far as the universally accepted ones worldwide, not too many of them. And so at that time, it's not like if you won in 3 weight classes today.
Yeah.
How many weight classes are there, Josh?
At this point, I think it's like 17 or something like that, 17, 18. Because you have, it's crazy because you have all the in-betweens. I want to say it's like 17, somewhere around there. Now compared to back then, it's insane. And if you think about
like 6 or 7,
and we kind of alluded to it a little bit, real quick. Shout out to Josh Taylor. Salute there to you, Josh Taylor. Great to have you in the mix there. And he versus Renty Monaghan. You mentioned him before there, Josh. Was a hell of a flyweight, no doubt about it. I still need to brush up on him there. But no, good stuff there. Josh Taylor, relative of the great Charles Bud Taylor. If you didn't know, there, folks, in the mix here. I told you, we have people coming through who do their thing. But man, yeah. Hey, Josh, he does his thing there. So I was gonna note what was I mentioning? What were we saying? What was I saying right before? Or we were talking
about Fitz, like the 3-weight champ and doing it past prime to get that third. We were trying to relay just what that meant to have captured.
Oh yeah.
At that time, especially, it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and the amount of weight class, but it was certainly less back then at that particular time frame. So that stood out. And I was saying, now I think they're probably around 17 or something like that. But if you look at that in that perspective, I think there when Fitz had captured it, there were 7 maybe around that time or something like that. You think he'd already pretty much conquered and achieved the highest in 3 of them.
So let's see. So you had heavy, light heavy, middle, welter, lightweight, featherweight, phantom.
Yep.
7. And is that all the universally recognized ones?
I think was flyweight there then?
I don't know if it was official yet.
Yeah, you're right. Because I'm trying to think of when I have a video on the channel on Jimmy Wild, and I remember going through some of that. I can't remember. You know what? Right? It might have. Someone out there knows.
Or even if it was 8. So like
7 or 8 for sure.
But like today, you could get. It's a little different. But if you just abolish all the junior divisions, and then capture 3 proper weights worth of belts, like 3, it's a big jump. Now, granted, Fitz didn't have to go through whole walls of 220-pound men, but there were some big guys there. Jeffries wasn't a little guy. The guy that beat him, that dethroned him. So, like, maybe heavyweight didn't mean quite the same thing as it does today. It was the speed to power ratio is different, but to have done that is absolutely insane. So it's right that he be remembered, especially because he had that real power. What you got there?
one of the Labubu.
Oh, nice, man. Nice.
I had given it to my dog. She bit the little back and opened it up. I just grabbed it real
That's
quick.
how they do, man. That's the
But
fun.
yeah, but no, good stuff there. Rhythm and Trey Titan, shout out to him. He said no disrespect, but Karate Combat is trash. It's all MMA fighters now. No more traditional styles to showcase and appreciate. Okay, I get what you can from that standpoint. Then Trey Titan, I haven't tuned in to as many of them here as of late, but I have seen that there are some fighters who we saw fight in the or fight in the UFC or whatever who are fighting there now. The last one I saw, I remember it was Uriah Hall fighting someone. I like Uriah Hall, always liked him and his style or whatever. And he's dabbled into some boxing and all of that as well. So he's a striker. But hey, you have the right to that opinion there, Trey Titan. So good to know that. But I haven't seen any of the full events as of late right there. So the last thing I saw was Uriah Hall there. So Random, this is the one we were talking about there, Karate Combat. So it may not be hitting off quite like it could be, you know. Sometimes some stuff does get watered down in some sense. Yeah, but hey, it's a natural thing that happen. Dan mentioned I don't think Roy Jones should have quit. He did still make a lot of good money and it was fine. Doesn't get credit like he deserves, Roy. Yeah, but he was certainly past it there, Dan. No, I feel you there for sure. He was past it, not the same explosive fighter he was, but hey, it is what it is, I guess you could say. Shout out to Haplotype. There, I know you know they're random. Yeah, Haplotype says Bel Calzaghe was the one who beat simply the best, aka Eubank. Hey, you know, in this household we love Eubank Senior. He's an eccentric character.
That's a tough fight for him, you know.
Yeah, Calzaghe. Yeah,
I mean, Calzaghe had fights already, and he was a 3-weight amateur champ, but that's a big step up, man. Eubank was legit, and he was training for a fight, just not that fight when he stepped in for Steve Collins.
Oh yeah.
Calzaghe, like, it's just a shame he didn't get to fight all the great 168 guys that just preceded him. Eubank being one of them, but like, you know, closer to the meat of their careers, because those would have been great matchups. Like Nigel Benn, Joe Calzaghe would be a really interesting fight.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Because Ben had particular traits that made him very difficult to fight, even if you hurt him, especially if you hurt him in some ways.
Oh yeah,
I would love to. But Collins Calzaghe would be a great fight. Just very interesting clash of styles, but you know, you just can't always get whatever.
We don't get them all, you know. We certainly get them all, unfortunately. And man, we think about some of the great ones that we note there from a historic standpoint. Man,
although we are lucky to get anything, man. The way the negotiations seem to go, and that's always been true. We're lucky to get anything. Holy shit!
That is true, right there. That is very much true. It's insane. You think about
it's worth mentioning him again. Fitz was a real businessman. He
oh yeah.
In fact, Tommy Burns, who won, he took over the second iteration of the heavyweight thing. He won it from Marvin Hart after Jim Jeffries retired. Tommy Burns, one of his nicknames was the Dictator, because he was about that money. It was also, he looked a lot like Napoleon.
Oh yeah.
He looked a lot like Napoleon, who dominated Europe militarily 100 years earlier. So in England, they call him the Emperor as well. But the Dictator was a good nickname for him because he was going to get that money, win, lose, or draw. That was the impediment to someone being able to put together Tommy Burns and Jack Johnson, is coming up with his money. He wanted a high price for that. Well, he wanted 30 grand, win, lose, or draw. He did end up getting it and took the fight to his credit.
No, yeah. Hey, and yeah, it's crazy. Different, 30,000 to 5,000 and whatnot. So yeah, that was certainly insane. Haplotype mentions Crib is one of the best UK, but those are guys no one would know. No doubt about it. Yeah, we briefly mentioned them. I don't remember exactly the town he's from. I don't know if it's England or what. But Tom Crib, that's taking it back right there. Taking it back, you know, talking about some of the greatest world heavyweight champions that the sport has seen right there. When they didn't have the gloves on the fists right there, folks. So you had to do things a little bit different right there. Dan mentioned Fitzsimmons dominated the heavyweight division in a tough era, except Jeffries, who he did give a great fight to. No doubt, Fitzsimmons and Roy Jones Jr., only two guys won middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight champion. Shawnee taught me that. Oh yeah. I've seen that. I know you're talking about Khan Shawnee. I know he used to drop by some chats and all that. So I don't know, maybe he still does and all that stuff. But yeah, that is pretty crazy. Think about it right there. Middleweight up to heavyweight to win the middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight title.
So let's see. Fitz won. He was undisputed at middleweight and undisputed at light heavyweight, and then he had half of the heavyweight championship.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I'm just curious. So with Jones, how would his thing line up in that manner?
Well, Jones, he never did defend the title. You know, he only had that one fight at heavyweight. He went up there, won it over John Ruiz, who had a version of a heavyweight title. I think at the time there was 3 of them. And he won one of them that Ruiz had, and he looked good in doing so. He came in, I think he weighed in at about 199 pounds, maybe 200 pounds.
Wow.
Around that. But he was like in peak top shape for him. But it was a similar fashion to like Rocky, when we talk about Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, they're at the weight that works for them. So he still had his speed, explosiveness, and all that stuff. And you're just too quick, and too athletic there for Ruiz. So he won the title. And I guess one of the things that kind of is associated with sort of the derailing of Roy is he went back down to 175, and he had, in order to get to that 200 pounds, he did it the right way, of course, and he put on muscle and all that stuff. So he had bulked up a little bit more. You can see he was a little bit bigger, stronger, and all that good stuff. So he had to lose and drop some muscle and all that stuff to get back down to it. And that's what a lot of people think may have derailed him to go. So put that on, have that fight, and then go back down to light heavyweight. You know, that kind of altered the body and may have affected kind of that athletic aspect. And at this time, he was in his 30s. So that factors in as well. You know what I'm saying? Early 30s, but 30s.
Especially if you're a speed guy. So going up in weight, even if you're not quite as big as the other guy, you're faster than he is, and you're coming from a place of speed. Moving back down, you're now going in the other direction where you're trying to lose muscle mass and get the old speed back. It's just not sustainable when you weigh so much. So it's tough, man. But it's also, these guys do a lot to make the weight. So I don't know how much difference there is in actually how much they're cutting weight, or if they just don't cut, and then other factors like so I'm guessing if he was like 199, that was without a cut. That's just his walk around weight. Camp weight.
He that's a lot of meat. And he put on that weight to get to the heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like he was one of those guys that while he was at 175, he was just blowing up in height and weight or anything. So he actually systematically put on that weight to get to heavyweight, sort of like what Usyk did to get there to heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? Though it was from 175 to heavyweight. And so I guess it'd be more like Leon Spinks, who went from, not Leon Spinks, but Michael the Jinx Spinks, who was light heavyweight, ended up having success at heavyweight right there. You know what I'm saying? So he went about it, I'd imagine, pretty much kind of the right way, where he still maintained that same style, speed, kind of, skill set. It was unchanged and all of that stuff going up there. So it was the same for Roy. So he brought all of those elements that he had there that saw him become what he was there in those middleweight, and then, of course, ultimately light heavyweight rankings. He brought all of that to heavyweight right there. What would have been more ideal for him is to would have been to kind of stick around and of course fight John Ruiz is a different story than getting there with a Lennox Lewis or something like that. Tyson was still around at that time, so there could have been some big fights potentially made for him at heavyweight. How he would have fared against guys like that, I don't know. Hey, we'll never know, I guess, really at this stage right there, but I think he would have.
Yeah, it's different than winning the whole shebang. But that's why we prefer people, if possible, to get that undisputed. So that at least at some point in time, they're the absolute guy, and there's no real credible question. That can happen. I'm pretty sure when Larry Holmes was the champ, even though he didn't have the whole thing, he was the main champ. He was the guy
Oh yeah, right.
because
Yeah,
of his
no.
success. And you'd be like, it's hard to argue against. But yeah, people do
And
prefer when you get the whole thing. But
he's a
unfortunately, with Fitz, it was drawing the color line, so he wasn't going to get that.
Yeah, and Larry Holmes is a good example. Like Larry Holmes, of course, he's regarded as so he's going to be interested on our little top 10 heavyweight thing where he falls, if he falls in the midst there in certain areas or whatever, because of the fact that, like him, there many who swear by him, who know he's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Many say he has the greatest jab of heavyweight of all time, all that stuff. And of course, he had a dominant run and all that stuff, but of course, we didn't get to see him against some of the best while he was in his prime, of course, when some of the other best, like he was just after that. If he would have been a little bit earlier, then of course he would have crossed over with those guys in or at least closer to their prime, in their prime, but closer to it. But that's one of the things there that gets associated with him. So I think he's another one
in someone's shadow.
Yeah. But hey, for many, he's a top 10 heavyweight there all time there. Larry Holmes, of course.
He made your list, Josh? He made your list, I take it.
Time would tell. We'll see.
He made mine. I won't lie. He made mine.
We'll see. Hey, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see that coming up. When's that coming up, Josh? Tell the people.
That is March 4th. March 4th, folks. We're going to, Random McKissick Thoughts, and now we're going to be doing a discussion where we're going to dive into the top 10 heavyweights of all time. It's going to be 15 because we had discussed doing a five honorable mention heavyweights. But what we're going to do is we're going to include ties. So there will be a total of 15 heavyweights that will be included in the top 10. But there are going to be some weight classes where there are some ties. And of course, none of us know what ranking or whatever or where that comes into the fold at, but it should make it interesting right there. And this is, of course, our opinions, and it factors in a multitude of things. And it's not necessarily so what I will say is that there are so many things that go into it because you're gonna have some things and some opinions that will differ. Some people I know won't be in agreement. I can tell you there are going to be some guys on my list that you don't have footage of them. So that's what I would say. So that's a spoiler alert, I guess you could say. So for some, that's not going to fly for them. It flies for me. With that being said, for some, it's not going to fly for them. The fact that there's no footage of them or whatever it may be. Or in some cases, very minimal footage, right? So it's one of those things. That's why I always say there's not necessarily a wrong answer in terms of someone's list. Someone's lists are what they view and how they think, maybe what they saw in their opinions and feelings just based on what they visually were able to see. Some of them are centric. Some of them are what you expect, the traditional, you know what I'm saying? I think what you'll end up seeing here with Random McKissick Thoughts and I is just based on some other things that we've kind of dabbled into is that it will be a mixture there. So you're not going to get the absolute traditional, though there's going to be some traditionalists, some traditional elements to it. You're going to get some of it that may not be agreeable, especially for those who are stewards of the visual aspect, who feel like, hey, I need to see every fight or I need to have nearly every fight in their career on film or whatever. Hey, but you're not going to get that with everyone, right? Even like Jack Johnson, we mentioned he's going to be on both of our lists, I can say that. But we only have Jack Johnson as heavyweight champion, and his best wins pretty much came before that. When you look at it from when he was matched up with the prime version of an opponent who was on equal caliber and all that stuff. So it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to have its like, questionable. That's why we're including 5 honorable mentions in the mix there as well. They're random.
Right. And we're also allowing ties because there might be things where
Or 5 ties, yeah. 5 ties.
different athletes qualify under different versions of what we would consider great, but then you don't want to leave anyone out. You want to give credit where it's due. So I think what we're doing is basically our top 15 heavyweights, but in a 10 listing. So if we need it, so like it's like 10 ranks of the top 10 levels of heavyweight, maybe is the best way to put it. We're allowed ties. So if we have to jam up to 5 extra guys in there, we can do that if that feels more fair. You don't want to leave anyone out because there are guys, to me, they make an argument for like down by 9 or 10, but there's a lot of guys making that argument. I don't want to. And then that's how people get their feelings hurt. You leave someone out when they're so close. I like that. Is that another of your dog's toys?
Hey, he's gonna be on there for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's real easy to put high up on the list.
Oh
because unlike a lot of these talkers, man, he has the resume. It's one thing to be flashy. It's one thing to win a lot of fights, but the depth of Ali's resume compared to his success, oh my goodness.
I got this one. Will this guy be on the list there, random? That's going to be a question. Will this guy be on the list?
With ties, yeah.
Can you see that, folks?
Probably. He probably makes mine, seeing as we're allowed ties and he doesn't have to take up an exclusive spot.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain type of greatness, not everyone has, like he doesn't have longevity in the degree that others did.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Tyson wasn't great. And there are certain prisms by which you could view it and he'd come up very high because of what he is known for.
Yeah.
Jack Dempsey is a little bit like Jack Dempsey came up knocking out a lot of dudes in a short order.
Yeah.
Part of culminating in Willard, although he had a break before that fight. But like the year before, he had just absolutely mashed. I don't know how many guys it was, 15 or 16 guys.
Yeah. That makes it interesting.
That's partly what made him ready to become such a megastar once he beat the hell out of Willard.
Dan says not Tyson. Got you there, Dan. I know you mentioned it before. Dan mentions a good point. Says Holmes very careful, protect the money. Weak era, and didn't fight most of the best heavyweights available. Never gave Norton a rematch or Weaver, Katsia, Dokes, Pinkleton Thomas, Mercado. So interesting right there. But hey, some people, they got Larry Holmes up there beating a lot of heavyweights in history right there. So that's what's going to make it interesting. But as mentioned, folks,
I think those are fair points, though. If someone's aware that someone declined a certain number of fights,
Remy says Iron Mike,
weighing their actual fights against their opportunities. I'm a little bit that way with Floyd Mayweather. Fought a lot of really good fighters. He was very taking his time about who he would fight and when, to the point where it's.
Yeah, that's a good example.
It takes away from all the high-level fighters because he's being as selective as is humanly possible about which ones and when, what weight class and all that stuff, all the particulars. He had every right to, but can't buy legacy. He said you can't spend it. You can't buy it either. Well, you probably can, but not with me.
Yeah, so that makes it interesting. That's a good example right there. Because for some,
so maybe Holmes, Holmes just let too many big fights go to rank inside 10. For me, I'm thinking of mine as a 15, right? I'm gonna have 15 guys across 10 slots, and because of that,
then
I know that Holmes is making
then other thing, like Holmes feels that he was purposely robbed in fights against Michael Spinks. So that he couldn't get to 40. Well, certainly the first one, so that he couldn't ultimately get to 49-0. Do other people feel that way, that he was robbed against Michael Spinks? Do folks feel that Larry Holmes was robbed against Spinks there? So those are some of the things we factor in as well there. And so this is what's going to make it very interesting. I definitely look forward to it. I think it's going to be a good, fruitful discussion there on the top 10 heavyweights of all time, folks, of all time. But we're sticking with Marcus of Queensberry rules, that is.
Yeah, we're keeping it gloved era. Just because I don't want to because I'd have to research the whole other era and the rules and the history of it. And too much to feel like I can talk credibly about it as a scene, especially through all these generations. With the gloved era, I can keep up at least, if nothing else. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's good stuff there for sure. Good stuff there, Dan. Speaks underrated, speaks beat them soundly twice. So that's good stuff there, Dan. For sure, but no, and that's good. Random, yeah, we've been having this discussion. Matter of fact, now we are talking about the greatest English boxers of all time, which we've touched on a number of them. We haven't dove into all of real quick. Random, I'm just gonna bring up a couple of the things we had the depictions for. Now we won't have every single person, of course, but yeah. I'm gonna bring up Charlie Mitchell. This is taking it back 1800s right here. I want to bring up Charlie Mitchell. He's an English fighter and had a hell of a career. Not a crazy amount of fights there from an overall perspective, but more in common with what we see here in modern times. But I wanted to bring up Charlie Mitchell because he was actually in with some pretty good names. Most notable, of course, John L. Sullivan. And from an overall standpoint, he was the first to take Sullivan to a draw. The first sort of blemish on his record there was Charlie Mitchell, of course, having been in there with John L. Sullivan. He was in there with James J. Corbett, of course. This is the man who ultimately would dethrone John L. Sullivan. He was in with the likes of Paddy Slavin, Australian fighter, former Australian world heavyweight champion, and one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in an era when Australia produced some of the most premier heavyweights that the sport had seen. He was in with the likes of Jim Hall, Jim Mace, one of the greats there. I'm going to pull it up again just so we can kind of talk about some of those names. Jack Burke, hell of a fighter if you don't know him. I have some videos on the channel where he's come up. Mike Cleary, one of the big-time punchers during that era. He was in there with him. Charlie Mitchell, that is. Dominic McCaffrey. I have a video on the channel on the great Dominic McCaffrey. Jake Kilrain. I have a video on the channel of Jake Kilrain, and he's in the midst of a number of videos. Herbert Slade, Billy Edwards, William Sheriff. Sheriff probably won't know much about, but he's a name there. Was in with some pretty good names. Herbert Slade, the Maori fighter, the Maori heavyweight, trained and learned under the great Jim Mace, and he's one of the great. He was more so bare knuckle, but he had a lot of boxing matches, primarily with Jim Mace there, gloved era, but it depends on the shape that he showed up in, so he's worth mentioning there. But Charlie Mitchell, hell of a fighter, and he's of that ilk in time there, random, when a guy who was 160 pounds or more was pretty much a heavyweight at that particular period, because you really didn't have a light heavyweight and all that stuff. So if you were over 160 or 160, or like we had mentioned in the last one, depending on what middleweight was being competed at that particular time, and let's say it was 154 or 158, depending on the years in between, then yeah, anything above that, you were generally considered a heavyweight. So that's why it's kind of, it kind of looks funny, looks kind of boggling. You think about Charlie Mitchell being a rival of John L. Sullivan when Mitchell was, by today's standard, really middleweight, super middleweight. Then, of course, ultimately light heavyweight-ish type individual right there.
Yeah, and it's just a different era. And obviously in the matchup itself, you'd have to use different attributes more heavily to survive the encounter. You know, you have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
And we talked about those guys, you know, he was about it.
Yeah, we talked about Don Perel, Jack Dempsey, first world middleweight champion. I think when he first won it, it was probably 152 or 154, one of the two. I know Dan is routed up as well, but it's just different with the weights and where they ended up compared to now. But certainly when it came to Jack Dempsey, while he was middleweight champion, we associate with him when we think about it from a modern lens. Pretty much majority of his fights, he was in the mid or low 150 range in general. Even he was in the 140s as well at times. So he's not like a huge middleweight, but by that same token, he also fought heavyweights. So it's crazy how the differences were there, and that's what makes some of the eras so different. And so you have to kind of look at them in their own lens in that sense as well, which I think will factor in when we think about it from our heavyweight discussion that we're going to have on the top 10 heavyweight, because some things were just so different in the eras, right? So Fitzsimmons, it was different than him fighting in the 70s, of course. So yeah, 160 something pound Fitz, 170 pound Fitz against a 200-pound Ali or something. Yeah, on paper, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Think about it, but the eras were different. The sport in itself was different, or something like that. I'm just using that as an example, you know. Hey, shout out to Alex in the mix there. Alex jumped in and said Sullivan and Mitchell fought after a thunderstorm in France. Oh yeah, the ring was a muddy mess. The fight was under London rules. Yeah, and Mitchell just tossed himself into the mud. Yeah, that is associated with that French fight there for sure. Sullivan knocked Mitchell out in some glove competition as well. When they were fighting in like Madison Square Garden, I believe it was, or somewhere in New York, or maybe it was Boston or whatever, on stage. But that is correct there. Shout out to my man Alex in the mix there. Hey, Dan mentions also random Freddie Mills, light heavyweight, Henry Cooper, Lloyd Hunnigan. Hey, funny enough there, Dan. I do have one of those things, and I'll bring it up. Freddie Mills, because we brought him. We wanted to talk about him, Dan. Freddie Mills, one of the greats, for sure. Light heavyweight as well, but realistically, light heavyweight in terms of you seeing him at his best. Look at some of the names on there: Gus Lesnovich, Joey Maxim, Lloyd Marshall, Black Murderers Row heavyweight right there, who was damn good. Then there's some others. Brendan and I were talking about this. Like, I don't know every opponent right there, so I listed some of the others that are in the mix there that Freddie Mills was matched up with. Jock McAvoy, good fighter. Al Delaney, damn good fighter. Lynn Harvey, damn good fighter. Then Jack Hyams. I knew of Jack Hyams, but I don't know enough to speak on Jack Hyams or the likes of Tommy Martin, Tom Reddington, Joe Boxey. But these are individuals who, if you look at their competition and who they fought at that particular time, you'll get an understanding of pretty much how good Fearless Freddie Mills was. And I must share this story. I've shared it before there, folks. Random, and I'll share this. Fearless Freddie Mills. How I came to know Freddie Mills was from watching. So I wasn't watching it, but my partner, she would watch this British show, Father Brown, right? You know of that random Father Brown? You ever seen that?
But I'm out of the loop.
Oh yeah, it's one, but hey, many will know it on the British side. But it's one of those shows that was long running. RIP, the main actor who played Father Brown, he passed away like a year or so ago, a year or two ago. But basically, Father Brown, I'm a fan of Father Brown now, but at the time, she'd be watching it, and I just knew it was on. I wasn't paying attention or anything. It did one episode. I was on my computer because I usually have my laptop there. One episode, I heard them talking about boxing. And then it turns out to be a episode of Father Brown. It's like a he's like a crime solving priest, essentially. And it's one of those type shows that long running. And they did a show on Freddie Mills. They started talking about boxing, and then there was like a murder that took place and all of that stuff. And they were talking about Freddie Mills. And I just started paying attention. Long story short, I started to watch the show with her from there, just from the fact that this Freddie Mills show had come on. And then I started looking into Freddie Mills, and that's when I became aware of his story and all that stuff. I think I did a video back in like 2020 or 2021 on Freddie Mills. I did this video on mysterious deaths, but Freddie Mills, he had a very interesting death associated with him. Very, I guess you can say, controversial, clouded in mystery, surroundings, and all that stuff, and what went down, and whether it was I think it may be listed as a suicide, but it could have been a murder. Oh yeah, Dan mentions it. Matter of fact, Dan mentions gangster murder. but I think they listed as a suicide or something. But it's very controversial there with Freddie Mills. And I'm paraphrasing because I haven't looked into it in a while, but yeah, he was found outside of a club or something like that. And he had a gun that was borrowed from a friend or something like that. And he was shot, and it's associated with being something with, so you have a mix of it. Could have been a murder, gangster stuff right there where Dan is talking about, but it's still mysterious to this day. So I do have that video on the channel. I think it's called 5 Mysterious Deaths in Boxing or something like that. But Freddie Mills, yeah, he had a mysterious ending there, and it certainly is worthy of questioning, I would say. It was a minute ago, of course, to this point, but certainly worthy of questioning there. So I just wanted to bring that up there, random, because that's how I became aware of the great, fearless Freddie Mills. But he is most certainly one of the greats to come out of England there for sure. Light heavyweight champion. I don't think he won the heavyweight title, but man, one of the damn greats right there, Freddie freaking Mills. So
that's badass. I don't have anything to add, but that's badass.
Oh yeah. No, cool. So and then also I'll random because we were talking about it and having it. I'll bring up another one I have here of a guy by the name of. Let me see if I get it to show here. Don't know if it's showing. I'm getting a little slowdown right. Oh, there we go. There we go. Matt Wells. Here's a name that many don't know, and I only became aware of him through some of these other fighters. But if you look at his resume, you'll understand how one could become aware of Matt Wells. He's another English fighter there. But look at the names on his resume: Owen Moran, Ted Kid Lewis, Johnny Basham, Harlem Eddie Kelly, Charlie White, Walter Moore, Lockport Jimmy Duffy. Gonna bring it up again. Johnny Griffith, Steve Latto, Mike Glover, Ray Bronson, Freddie Welsh, Packy McFarland, Knockout Brown, Leech Cross. Man, there were world champions on that list there, guys, that I mentioned there. But Matt Wells, he was a fighter who's not really known by the wide masses these days, but he's a British fighter that, for a guy, as you see, he had a career. I don't know. I think it ends up being around 60-ish fights or somewhere around there. But he was able to do his thing, and we can see that he was in with some tough flight competition. He didn't win a world title, but I think he did win European titles. But that being said, you can see he was in there with some of the best to have laced him up right there, Matt Wells. So I wanted to mention Matt Wells. You'll have to look into him, and he's come up in some videos that I've done as well. Dan there mentioned Ricky Hatton, of course, the legend Ricky Hatton. Yep, no doubt about it. Here in modern times, Charlie White fought for I believe, a lightweight in welterweight or light welterweight championship, something like that. He never won a title. But if you don't know Charlie White, folks, look him up. Hell of a fighter there with a deep resume, and he was one who was in with some of these guys that I had just shown here. Some of this started with me bringing up my man Owen Moran, who I brought up on occasion right there, but he was in there with Charlie White. But Owen Moran, another English fighter who was on point, smaller weight fighter who I think it was former world featherweight champion or bantamweight, one of the two. I can't think of it right now, but one of the two there. But as you can see, he scaled different weights right there because he was in with the likes of Maxwell. Jim Driscoll, another great right there. Ad Wolgast, former world lightweight champion. Ad Wolgast, that is. Let me bring it up again here. Philadelphia Pal Moore fought multiple times. Hello fighter. Charlie White, who we just mentioned. Phil Brock. You don't know Phil Brock. He was a damn good fighter who fought in this era. Never won a world title, but he was in the mix there. Same is the case with Dick Hyland. Packy McFarland never won a world title. Former, he didn't. Yeah, he could have been a lightweight champion potentially.
He has one of the great numerical records.
Yeah, arguably undefeated or having lost only once or whatever. But you'll have to watch the video I have on the channel, and you can find out a little bit more about Becky McFarland there for sure. Battling Nelson, of course, former lightweight champion. This is who Owen the Fearless Moran. Let me look. I got to look it up real quick to see what title Owen Moran won. Owen Moran. I just want to make sure because I can't remember if it's bantamweight or featherweight. Owen Moran, he was about to known as the Fearless. So the former world bantamweight champion. So he's from that Birmingham area of England. But man, just look at his resume there, folks. I'm gonna bring it up again.
Owen, and he had a bunch of fights against Abe Patel, the great Abe Patel.
Yeah, Abe Patel.
And he beat his brother Monty, but Monty wasn't on the same level. Abe Patel is one of those great fighters of this era.
Yeah, I think I put Abe. Did I put Monty? Or I put Monty. I put Monty there as well. Yep, Monty. Yep. Did my guy Danny Doherty. I have a buddy named Danny Doherty as well, but he was one of those contenders in and around that era. Fought George Dixon. Look at that, folks. George freaking Dixon. He fought George Dixon, legend in the game. Eddie Henlon. If you don't know Eddie Henlon, big time puncher. I'm gonna do a video on Eddie Henlon. As a matter of fact, I've said it before. I just hadn't gotten around to actually doing it, but I'm going to do one on him. Frankie Neal, I think he fought for a world title. Damn good fighter there. You mentioned Abe Patel. Hey, one of the greats of all time, the Little Hebrew. Shout out to Mark Allen Baker, has a book on Abe Patel. And yeah, just one of the longer reigning featherweight champions in the world as well.
Yeah, Moran has a very respectable opponent list. Very respectable indeed.
Harlem Tommy Murphy. I got a little video out there on Harlem Tommy Murphy, who's a beast there as well, random, which we had spoke about. Then Randolph Turpin right there, folks. If you don't know, he's probably or his most famous fight, of course, is that of Sugar Ray Robinson, and beating Sugar Ray Robinson is his most high mark, I would say, claim to fame. But he had a lot of other good names on the resume out there. Carl Bobo Olsen, you don't know him, one of the greats that the sport has seen. Tiberio Mitri, I think Dan has brought up Mitri before, but he's Italian or something like that. Now, I don't know a lot of these opponents of Randy Turpin. This is the era there. This, you know the era he was in there. You think about Sugar Ray Robinson there, and though you're talking 50s, 60s-ish, I guess you can say somewhere around that time frame. And so I don't know all of the opponents, but I noted some of these opponents there. If you look them up for yourself, they're pretty damn good. Don Cocco, I know of him, of course, he's pretty solid. But the likes of Pete Meade, Albert Fitch, Alex Buxton, solid guys. Yolande Pompey, you look at some of the names on his resume. Wim Snowick, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Another one, Hans Stretz. He was a German fighter, majority of the time in Germany. But if you look at some of these names and who they were in with from a competition perspective, you get a glimpse of they were in with some high level guys there. Random. So I wanted to note them, but as we had discussed beforehand, we don't know all of the opponents to that degree. You know what I'm saying? But these are some great English fighters, and sometimes it's a case where, and certainly I think we see it in modern times. If you don't know the fighters, then of course, well, we generally don't speak on them as though we know them like that. But if you don't know the fighters, you might discredit some of the fighters. But some of these names are far versed in the sport than what may meet the eye. Some of those names on Randy Turpin's resume, when I was looking through them, they were new to me, and I was saying to myself, oh wow, okay. Because you'll see some recognizable names, then you'll see some that they may have a record that makes you want to click and look, and you look and you're like, okay, I see who was in with, see who he may have lost to, see who he may have competed with. And this is stuff that you can do and you'll see without actually seeing the actual footage, you know. So there are different ways in which you digest it right there. But we do have footage of Randy Turpin, of course, and he met a pretty sad ending as well. From what I recall, there were some mental health issues associated with him. But he had a pretty sad ending and sort of fall from is high there in the sport of boxing. There, yeah, Dan mentioned what a resume. Orm Moran, awesome. I thought he was Irish name. Oh yeah. No, it's old Englishman there. Dan mentions Mitri fought Lamata for the title. Lamata beat him up. Okay, yep. I knew you had mentioned him before. There.
People, you want to see an underrated resume? Go look through Jake LaMotta's resume.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Go scroll through his career. Like, he had so many big fights, notable opponents. It's just pretty insane. Like, when we were ranking the middleweights, I took a pretty good look at him when I was doing one of those shows with Scrap and BL. I can't remember if you were in on the middleweights, Josh, but
I don't think
that resume goes on forever.
But yeah, Lamata, man, crazy resume.
Some guys are like that. And so, like, ranking, as we will be ranking the heavyweights in March, different people have different ways of measuring what does it mean to have more fights. Does it mean anything? It's not a given that if you have 100 fights that everyone's going to say, well, it's tougher to win consistently when you have so much wear and tear on the body. Some people just say, well, it's too bad, you should have quit. And they're just looking for a high point and then hopefully not too far of a drop off. Whereas other people are just looking at like the overall career, what was achieved as far as opponents beaten or drawn with, or however you want to. That's another thing too. Do people count draws? Like, if you fight evenly with someone who's world class, some people are like, well, you didn't win, it don't mean nothing. Other people would say, well, if you have to be a certain level of good to get a draw with someone on that level. And it does mean something. You just you don't gain, but you didn't lose anything.
And and like with that, the further you go back, there's certainly particulars and layers to those draws, and they aren't what they seem on paper, or the paper version of it being a draw doesn't match what actually happened in the fight. So that makes it interesting too.
Yeah, that's a whole other level of decision making. Like, to go in, how deep do you go in and start fiddling with results or going with controversies? And I don't do it, but I just do make note of it. But I don't actually, it doesn't really affect too much for me. But like, because I don't have an equal knowledge of all these different careers to do that for.
Right. But yeah,
we say with Sam Langford,
we know it's crazy where some people have some draws on their resume and they actually dominated the fight, but it's a draw, which is insane.
Right. Its own kind of like sort of robbery decision, robbed of a win by an erroneous draw. Some people would say.
Right. Crazy.
But like, when we're rating, so like for me, for a variety of reasons, Sam Langford rates pretty well on my all-time heavyweight list.
Oh yeah.
But to other people, he may not ping their list at all. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But there are good reasons for that, because it depends what someone's weighing. So I do count draws. If you fight even with a top fighter, I don't add points, but it doesn't hurt. It just bolsters the experience and the measure of the ability. And but also, he was fighting at heavyweight before he was even a heavyweight. So some people wouldn't count that. They'd be like, I need both guys to be in the bracket for it to be a real thing for me here. So we'll see. Like, I'm sure my list will ruffle a few feathers, but that's okay. I'm not the premier boxing expert, so it's all opinion anyway. I'm just going to give mine the way I see it personally.
Yeah. We're sharing opinion.
But I tell you this, I'm not going to be the guy who leaves Joe Louis off the top 11. I tell you that. Eddie Hearn, what the hell, man?
So yeah, right. So you'll see some.
I don't even get that.
Yeah, no. Joe Louis is going to be on there, folks. If you didn't know, that's a spoiler right there for you. He will be on there. The great Joe Louis.
It seems weird to even say that out loud, doesn't it? That's how bad. Oh yeah, there's Louis with some of his training partners for the Carnera fight.
I want to bring up that picture because we were talking about it before. Joe Louis is 6'2", 200 pounds, folks.
He's got some big fellas working with him, but of course, there were already lots of big guys in those days. And they had a good percentage of the big guys. A good percentage of them wanted to follow the money, and boxing was the money if you could do it.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like today where the NFL draft and rugby and all these other major sports with big money are pulling away these big athletes. It wasn't like that then. It wasn't the same. The money equation was, boxing was a lot of where the money was for a big tough guy.
Yeah.
Especially a big tough athlete. Wrestling was one of the others. but wrestling wasn't as popular in the U.S. So in the turn of the
Mhm.
century, I should say, the area I'm studying. But let's get back to the English
Oh
fighters,
yeah,
man. I'm
but
drifting.
yeah, there's
Can
been a
we? No, we
connection.
haven't done. Can we do the Dark Destroyer? Can we do Nigel Benn? Can we just shout him
Oh
out?
yeah, oh yeah, why? Yeah, why not? Yeah, because this included some of the more modern guys too. Yeah, Nigel Benn, of course, his son Connor is fighting now, representing that Ben namesake. Yes, let's do it. We don't have a picture or anything though.
That's okay. But yeah, he was a really good fighter. Exciting, chaotic. Like in some ways, he had a high level of technique, but in other ways, he fought in a way that wouldn't be associated with a high level of technique. Like it's,
Mhm.
I don't want to say anything bad because it wasn't that he didn't have style and technique. It was just kind of unique to him, his overall movement, like the level to which he'd respond to things and how precisely he did. It was a little bit unique to him. Love watching his fights.
Yeah, and he fought with emotion. You know what I'm saying? So, but that.
And he had a lot of emotion to go around. You know, he was a hard fella. And so, yeah, he brought it. And when he was hurt, he was still very dangerous.
Oh
Very,
yeah.
very dangerous. It almost brought him into focus. And then suddenly it all. So he has a lot of great moments in his fights where he gets stung and then he goes back and stings. And it's just, but he was a good fighter. And one of my favorite rivalries, Eubank Ben,
Mm-hmm.
classic. The interviews are great. Where
Mm-hmm.
Ben's like, well, I do hate him. You know, and he's like, because Eubanks are like, this is just business. And he's like, well, I do hate him. You
Mm-hmm.
know, great stuff, you know, but it's like the emotion there. And I just think there's a lot to enjoy about that career. I don't know where I rank him all time or anything like that, but
Yeah.
just, I'm not doing a ranking here. I'm just shouting out some English fighters. And
But
he's
no,
definitely one of the most popular in recent generations for
yeah,
good
it's
reason.
funny, and it's funny seeing some of the traits that pass down to the kids, right? So that makes it interesting as well, because you can see Connor fights with that same level of emotion in there, and you can just see it. It's written on his face essentially, but yeah, that makes it interesting as well. Just thinking about how some of those traits have passed on, and that rivalry kind of still lives on, though they said they're not fighting again, the Suns or whatever. So that adds to it as well. But that, hey, he's definitely one worth bringing up. Him and Eubank Senior. I know we mentioned him earlier as well.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, because they had a very particular style. Like they were very identifiable stylistically, both of them. But it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun fights in their career, a lot of good stuff to go back and watch. You know, there's a lot to be said for, okay, the guys who can do everything, everything's well rounded, everything looks by the book. But it's like, that's not the only thing that makes fighting fun, just seeing guys all do the same damn thing. It's like part of the reason I like to watch James Toney fights, Rocky Marciano fights, is Joe Louis fights, is they just fought like them.
Oh yeah, right.
And so if you want that particular style of fighting, you got to watch them if you want to see it at its best. Whereas there are boxers who are very well rounded and very good, very textbook, technically hard to hurt, always come off on the right angle. But it doesn't interest me. When I see it, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like, this is awesome. I'm just like, yep, making the correct moves. That
Yeah.
doesn't, you know, there's a thrill associated with fighting. So, you know, for me, it's like I have my favorites, then I have the ranking, the resume.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, compared to how I rank him, like Hopkins, I rank very highly compared to how much I actually want to watch his fights.
Oh
Because it
yeah,
was in
yeah,
that resume. You know, you got to give that kind of credit out, but you don't
yeah,
have to like it.
yeah. No,
Back
I
in
think.
Langford's day, young Peter Jackson was like that. He was an inside fighter largely and Joe Gann's training partner, but he wasn't exciting. But he was powerful and he was dangerous, but he wasn't exciting. And they used to criticize him for that.
Yeah, damn good fighter. They're damn tough resume, damn great competition. Fought above his size from
Challenged Jack Johnson for the colored heavyweight title. He lost the fight, but he won the challenge. Johnson bet he couldn't last. I think it was 12 rounds with him. It was either 10 or 12, and then yeah, young Peter Jackson lasted it, which is saying something. Because Johnson could hit when he wanted to,
Oh yeah,
especially
no
give him
doubt.
a big size advantage. Like so, young Peter Jackson, and then Sam Langford. Part of what made him even more feared and dangerous, famous, was getting beat on by Johnson, but still being game to mix it up for the whole fight. And how frustrated Johnson was because he couldn't finish him.
Oh yeah,
Langford was
yeah.
still trying to come forward. Like he still wanted to bang it out. which was what set him apart. That was one of the things that made him notable. So it's not often a one-sided loss will boost your esteem and hurt your opponent, but in that instance, it actually did. People criticize Johnson, like, "Oh, you want to fight Jeffries, but you can't even finish this little dude." I mean, Jeffries was retired by then, but you want to fight for the title, either Jeffries or fight Burns. I think had it by then. Yeah, he did. By April, Burns had the title.
Oh yeah.
But then Langford gained in esteem because they were like, "Yo, he had no business like not getting knocked out there. Who is this kid?" Well, they already knew him, but he was gaining fame beyond his lightweight fame from beating Joe Gans and his welterweight fame from fighting even with Barbados Walcott. So that loss actually had a lot to do with building his reputation,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty wild. So who else we got English style? Let's see. Who are some other fighters?
Dan mentioned some cats. John Conte. I remember him. Richie Woodall. Don't know Woodall.
Richie Woodall.
Watson. I don't know. I don't know.
Michael Watson.
Yeah, may have been.
Yeah.
I know Conte. He was held in high regard. Lost to Galindez. All your good stuff. Dan mentions Peter Jackson. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and young Peter Jackson was nominated a couple times ago for the Hall of Fame. Oh, as was Dave Hawley, the Philly fighter. Or I think Hawley was from New Jersey originally, but he fought out of Philly. Yeah, but young Peter Jackson and Dave Hawley were both nominated for the Hall of Fame. I think it was 2 years ago. They didn't get it.
Oh wow! Could they still come up?
They should be in there. I mean, young Peter Jackson's got a stoppage over what? Philadelphia Jack O'Brien and Sam Langford.
Oh yeah, may have been.
And Barbados Walcott. Didn't he stop Barbados Walcott on a body shot? I think.
Oh yeah, I know he was in there with him, so he might have. Yeah, he might have
and stopped Langford in one of their fights.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a beast, man, and he was only like 5'6", at that, but he was like in tip-top shape with him. But 5'6", just think about that. Easy to get in there and mix it up with heavyweights. Scrappy fighter for sure. I wish we had
clever and good wrestling, good like boxing style grappling and wrestling.
But yeah, he's got a number of names on his
work his way inside and lay the damage. He was really good with that. He was really good, world class.
We could probably do maybe we can do a show on him because I think we've brought him up sort of in passing and just generally from the standpoint that he's been tied to so many of these great fighters. That he's certainly worthy. He wasn't worthy of having his own discussion. I've included him in some of the videos that I've done because he's faced a number of the opponents with some of the videos on the channel. Same with some of the discussions we've had there, random. So he's certainly one worthy of a full-fledged discussion.
Yes, Sim Tompkins, young Peter Jackson.
Yes, sir. Salute to Clubber D there. Real quick, shout out to my man Clubber D holding it down. Salute, fellas. Be sure to go check him out, folks. Be sure to go follow Clubber D if you haven't right there so you can get your boxing and MMA content because he's in the mix, locked in on both areas there. So shout out to Clubber D.
Oh, well, sorry, Josh. Didn't mean to interrupt you, brother.
Oh, no, you good.
I'm pretty sure young Peter Jackson was in Jack Johnson's corner when he defended against Al Kaufman. I think he's in a photo there. Him and Bob Armstrong, the former colored heavyweight champion. They were in Johnson's corner, I think.
Okay. No, this is it right there. Oh, that's it.
So he wasn't just a fighter. He was woven in there in the mix in different ways. A serious guy.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. There was it's crazy how it is. Like, cause they would have fighters in their corners. Like certain fighters would have different fighters in their corner that work in their fights. How we see some association here in modern times and all that stuff that were active doing their thing. I know that's come across in some videos as well. And that was a big thing there because different fighters are essentially running mates. Gus Rulin, Devered Martin, Jim Jeffries, Bob Armstrong, these are cats that were like tied together. They'd be sparring, training, and all of that stuff together and all that.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you see some of those names pop up in the midst of being in the corner during certain fights and such.
Yeah, it is. So, fun fact. So, the first time Jack Blackburn fought Sam Langford, this was in Boston.
Yeah,
George Cole was in his corner.
crazy. George
Another
freaking
very
Cole.
good fighter, another very underrated fighter, very top level fighter of the day.
Yeah, damn good fighter. Him and Dave Holly cut from that similar cloth, where there are two guys who fought some of everybody, fought above their weight. They are known by some in the sort of historic community. Could be in the Hall of Fame, may ultimately eventually get there, but great damn fighters. Didn't get a title shot, and not as known as they probably should be, but damn good fighters, and so those you should certainly look into if you want to kind of look into it from a historic standpoint of some of these greats who were right there in the midst of those who
I'm trying to
saw
remember if
take on
Holly
a
got
more
a crack
prominent
at
name.
I'm trying to remember if Holly got a crack at Gans while he was champ. He might have.
But yeah, because I said didn't get a shot at the title. He might have. Oh yeah, we've had some
I have a
discussions.
vague recollection that might be the case, but don't quote me.
Oh, may have been. You know what? It may have been. I know we've had some Holly. I know we got some joint Holly videos. But I don't know was it Holly Gans or Holly Langford. I can't remember though. But we've done some. I have to look into it. So
Holly,
I could be out there. I think you might be right. He might have gotten a shot there,
but certainly didn't get the opportunities these guys that they would get in later generations, considering how many fights they had and how they were doing.
Yeah, I don't think.
Tough back then. There weren't enough belts.
Oh yeah, Black Bill, Joe Walcott's brother. Dan mentioned Belfield Walcott. Yeah, he was in there with all the best, basically. Not as good as his brother, but man, damn good fighter for sure.
Belfield Walcott was legit and actually had the same. So Belfield Walcott's manager became Sam Langford's manager, Joe Woodman. So in the couple years leading up to Langford's first busy year of 1903, Belfield Walcott was getting that kind of busy home club schedule that Langford then got. Like this, and Langford fought a lot of guys that Belfield had already fought. He also fought Belfield himself. They fought a 20-rounder, Langford's first 20-round fight.
Oh, Belfield Walcott.
How's that? Your first busy year? Because he had a pro fight the year before, but like his first busy year, and he includes his first 20-round fight. It's crazy.
Yeah. You don't know there, folks. Belfield Walcott, brother of Barbados Joe Walcott. No relation, of course, to Jersey Joe Walcott. But Belfield, he held his own. There's some other brothers out there. There's some other brothers, famous at the time, at least, famous brothers out there of some of the greatest in history.
Peter
Felix.
Monty Nabatel.
Yeah, Monty Nabatel. Freaking Jack Sullivan of Mike Twin Sullivan's brother there. Well, both of them, held their own.
Sullivan, exactly. The Gardner brothers.
Oh yeah, the Gardner brothers, damn good fighters.
Billy, Jimmy, and George Gardner.
Yep. Yeah.
Who else you got? There's quite a few. So
yeah, it's a good mixture. Yeah, that could be itself.
Didn't Terry McGovern's one of his brothers fought? I think.
Oh, it may have been the case there.
Because there were plenty of instances. Like there was a third Walcott brother. After Joe Walcott injured himself, shot himself in the hand in 2004, he came to Boston, claiming he was going to take up fighting to uphold the family name. I don't know if he ever did.
Oh yeah, Jack Dillon. He had a fight
in the area. Did his brother fight?
Yeah, but his brother used their surname back, which is escaping me at the moment. But he's another one. Dundee
brothers fought, right? Isn't there a video of him?
Oh yeah. He passed away not too long, a few years back. I think it is.
Talk about overshadowed being Ali's brother.
Oh yeah, Dundee brothers. Dan mentions there. Josh Taylor mentioned Barney Ross was definitely a legend. Oh yeah, Barney Ross, absolute legend right there.
Great fighter.
Marine there, Barney Ross, man, amazing style, damn good style, technicals, man, super technical right there. He's certainly one of the greatest of all time. There is just a beauty to watch there on film because, folks, there is film of Barney Ross that is out there, so you can go look him up for yourself, and that, from a visual perspective, helps number out right there. You get to see how good some of these old school fighters were. Vince and Joe, I think Johnny Dundee not related. Yeah, I knew Joe. Johnny didn't. Yeah, there was not that connected. So yeah, you put it on.
Yeah, Johnny Dundee, that wasn't his real name, wasn't it? Didn't he have an Italian name?
Yeah, I think that was the case there. So yeah, it's a very interesting. It's funny, and I know there are some others in the midst there as well. So
Or where you have like names that are the same, but not because they're related. So like George Memsick
oh
changed his
yeah,
name to Jimmy Burns, his fight name, when Tommy Burns, the champion, the
yep.
heavyweight champion, started managing his career, or the former champ. So he
Yeah.
changed his name to Jimmy Burns.
And Joe Gans had designated George light heavyweight champion when he retired there for the first time.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, sort of in a, I guess, official though unofficial capacity. But yeah, no, he was a damn good fighter there. Mesmic, well, Jimmy Burns or whatnot. And
Yeah, see, there was so much drama between Gans and the West Coast where Jimmy Britt's popularity lay, and battling Nelson too. Like,
oh yeah,
it's hard for me to know, like, when you see reports of stuff and what people said, but it's second, like, it's hard to know what's real and what was just PR, because there is some. This was one of the first times I encountered some BSing, some press BSing, you know, where there's this attempt to sort of wrest away lightweight honors through an indirect challenge, because they were drawing the color line on Gans while they were trying to claim the lightweight championship. So he did beat the former champs. He beat Frank Ernie and he beat Kid Levine. Jimmy Britt did.
Oh yeah.
But they didn't want Gans pushing the idea of them fighting each other directly. They just wanted people to stop recognizing Gans because he was fighting over the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting there. Yeah, so Gans, yeah, in battle.
But he wasn't the only one. Young Corbett II down, who you mentioned earlier, down at featherweight, was doing the same thing, even more so.
Young Corbett II, yeah, he was a good fighter.
So one of his defenses was like at 130 pounds. Like that's only 3 pounds below lightweight, you know. So like it was an issue beyond just Joe Gans, but Joe Gans was black, so it was different.
Yeah,
held a different standard. You know, that's how these things. Unfortunately, a lot of times how those things went back then. There were different standards at play.
Oh yeah, variants there,
or major yellow, or standards of how offensive you had to be to not have to fight rule to no contest. You know, there was a lot of echoes from that sort of racist framework that they were all working within.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you coming from there for sure. Yeah, so you saw a good mixture of that. So yeah, and that makes it interesting. Certainly, when we're diving into some of these stories,
it's not the only kind of adversity though. There are lots of guys who don't get opportunities for different reasons, including being too good.
Yeah,
good, like better than you are famous. You know, too good compared to your fame, and you don't have to not be white to suffer that. Like there's certain stuff that there's lots of adversity. It's just that in this era, especially of history, when we're talking the early 1900s, there was that extra layer, and the layer was heavy. The layer was heavy, so that's why it comes up a lot. It's not the only factor. Lots of guys got screwed out of opportunities, or should have gotten an opportunity, like Fred Fulton not getting a title shot.
Crazy.
Against Willard or against like Dempsey or anything like that. Couldn't get a title shot. A lot of winning, a lot of knockouts. He was just a bit too big and hit a little too hard. His jab was a little too good. And it's just.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Like lots of guys, unfortunately, don't get their thing. So that's why today we never trying to disrespect champions or the idea of capturing a title, but there's a lot more to go around. So much so, it's almost like not even the same thing.
Oh yeah. Dan mentioned George and Joe. Good. Thinking last name, maybe George Chip there, Dan. George Chip.
Oh yeah, Joe Chip and George Chip.
Hell of a fighter. And he had a more modern style resume, as a matter of fact, in terms of fight totality. Let me see how many fights he had. But George Chip was a hell of a fighter there.
Tommy and Mike Gibbons, right on. Oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of I'm getting ahead of this.
Oh no, that's good. No. Yeah, those are some beasts right there. Tommy.
That would make a good show. We should say Fighting Brothers. We should have greatest Fighting Brothers.
Let's do it.
That's a tough one, though.
64 fights for George Chip. Okay. Have more.
You'd have to balance how great.
Interesting about.
Like, is it better to have two pretty great brothers or one who's immeasurably great and another guy who just technically had fights?
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
That would be like Ali's brother fought, right? and Ali by himself is a couple resumes. So, but if you put him up against, say, like,
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to think, like the Gibbons brothers, both of them were world class fighters.
right. They were top tier. Yeah, both of them. Man, yeah, it's so crazy. It is the case right there. Tommy fought for the world heavyweight title against Jack freaking Dempsey. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, we should do that. You know, we can kind of rank some of those. I think we talked about it before, as a matter of fact. Those boxing tandems, because yeah, you're gonna have him, the Sullivan twin.
Shout out to Jack Blackburn's brother, Fred.
Oh yeah, that is right, Fred Blackburn.
I think sometimes he fought as Fred Blackburn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently they got in an argument, and it was Fred who slashed him across the face. They claimed it was an accident. Some argument, and then it wasn't that long after Blackburn got out of the hospital that he shot those people. And
oh yeah,
and so like they were stormy. They got in some trouble together, and yeah, that whole craziness.
Yeah, I gotta dive back into that. I think I reported it, maybe even different in some capacity there. In the little video I did that first one, but no, that's good stuff right there. Random, you mentioning that because yeah, Jack Blackburn, man, yeah, very interesting character right there.
Shout out Josh Taylor, yeah, man, always a good time to remind people how good Willie Pep was.
Oh yeah, Willie Pep,
oh yeah,
229, 11-1, in freaking insane, folks. Yeah, he had some historic freaking
brilliant record, brilliant fighter,
runs and streaks of just undefeated fights in terms of, man, yeah, he was just
a really witty guy, real good ambassador for the sport.
Yes, he is. And he was in a plane crash. Survived a plane crash at that, you know, was expected not to fight again, and he still did what he was able to do. That's insane. Think about it. Thinking about it.
Pep is inside my top 20 of all time.
Oh yeah. No, I can see that, yeah. And by most he's regarded as the greatest defensive fighter of all time, right there. Just a brilliant Willow the Wisp.
I don't know if that sounds anticlimactic saying top 20, but across all of gloved era boxing, 20 is a very small number.
No, that's top flight right there.
I got him in that range near like Ali and Joe Louis.
Deep.
They're inside the 20. They're not inside 15, but they're inside 20.
Yeah, no, that's certainly top flight because this work does go pretty freaking deep. So I rock with that.
Incredible. You start, especially when there are certain guys that got to be in there.
Oh yeah,
like resumes like Langford, Greb, Armstrong, Robinson. That's 4 slots. You just can't. You just set them aside. You know that's somewhere in your top 10 or 20.
Oh yeah.
If you go by resume at all.
Yeah,
but it doesn't take long to fill it up, man. There's a lot of great resumes there. Some of them are like ridiculoso length, like Jack Britton's or Ted Kid Lewis or Langford's, Greb's 300 range, you know, Maxie Rosenblum, that kind of area.
Yeah.
I think Dundee. Dundee might have had even more fights than that. Didn't he have 400 something? Or am I misremembering?
It's 300. Is in 300s for sure.
Okay.
Realistically speaking, yeah, it could have been probably somewhere in there, you know.
But then you have guys like Archie Moore. You have guys like Archie Moore and Joe Gans and who don't have as many fights, but they still have a great deal.
Crazy amount though.
Tony Canzaneri.
Around 200 or in that 200 range.
Then when you get more modern fighters plus certain greats of the past, then you get down into like still dozens of fights, still a lot of fights, but not as huge amount. But often you'll see the consistency in the top all-time greats. There's a lot more packed with like Jimmy McLarnin's resume or Ali.
Oh yeah.
Where it's pretty packed, even though it's not huge. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Oh,
so Josh mentioned the modern fighters are in that realm, I think.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Josh mentioned Chalky Wright, 4 fights for salary. Yeah, damn good fights there. Chalky Wright was a hell of a fighter right there. So that's major nod right there. Chalky, he doesn't get mentioned as much right there, but big time stuff there. Josh for sure. Dan mentioned Frankie and Tommy Baltazar, 80s lightweights, Mike and Tommy Ayala. I remember the Ayala's right there. I think it was Dan, I'm sure you'll know Danny Lopez and Mike Ayala, maybe. I saw that on Bruce Gass's channel. Shout out Bruce Gass. He showed that. It was a hell of a fight right there. Those two were going back and forth. just really dogging it out with each other right there. I think it
Oh,
was
wow.
Mike Ayala and Danny Little Red Lopez or whatever. So I'm sure you know they're dancing. Some great setups come through did their thing. I remember Tony Ayala from when I was first starting to kind of just watch the sport there on my own there. I remember Tony there, Dan, fight a year, Dan mentioned, yeah, that is the one. Hell of a freaking fight. I saw it on Bruce's channel. He was doing a little watching, kind of just watched and just react type joint. And hell of a fight right there because there's so many great ones out there. So that's why this sport is so deep, historic, and we're still catching up, continue to learn different things as it goes on there. But yeah, random man, this has been a splendid one right there. Gonna have to tap
Yeah,
out.
we're getting to that point because we're on the whole family matters.
Oh yeah,
We're on the siblings now. That's a separate show.
right.
But
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know as much as I'd like to about anything, especially anything that isn't the very early 1900s where I've spent my time. So I
yeah.
didn't have a
No,
lot to add
yeah.
this time, but I did try to think of some English-born fighters worth a shout out,
Oh no, that was
just
some good
try to
stuff.
keep up and learn. This was a lot of fun.
No, we talked about some pretty damn good ones and some of the sort of
So what's
resumes.
the date today? 86. Are we doing one next week?
There, I don't think there's one listed there, but I told you someone wants to talk about the historic or controversial decisions and all that stuff. We got the Criterion Club thing, so we're gonna set one up.
You want to do
Maybe
that Criterion Club thing? I
yeah, I
got
was
all
gonna
the
say
info to send
maybe
you.
maybe the Criterion Club, since you already have that listed out there, we can talk about that.
And I can send you graphics in plenty of time if you want to do them up at the Neon. I'll send you some graphics and clippings.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
Cool.
do it. Let's push for that one right there. So the Criterion Club. So you're gonna learn a little something about that, folks. If you don't know about it, where some great fights are
Yeah, I'll
going
explain.
down in Boston.
Yeah, I can explain. So in Boston, this is in October is when they actually open the new club. So the storied Criterion Club, which has already been around for a couple of years, they moved to larger rooms for October of 1903 and ran events until the night Joe Troinsky and Kid Carter were arrested at that club on the orders of Police Commissioner Emmons. When the ban in Boston began, the ban came down, right? The police interference. So, but that run of events they put on just between, I think it was October 18th or maybe the 13th and whenever it was, I think it was early February 1904, just the 3 months, they put on some great cards, great fighters in there. They weren't doing weekly events the whole time, but they had a couple breaks. Other than that, they were doing the weekly. So we were going to do a show talking about the different fights that happened there.
Mm-hmm.
That building is still around today. It is now a theater within the Boston Center for the Arts.
It's crazy.
Same address, 541 Tremont Street.
Historic.
Some part of me is tempted to take the train, or not the train, but take an Uber or take the bus. I don't think there's a bus down Tremont. Take an Uber and go do it in front of the venue.
Hey, let's see what's up. We got a little time right there. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's up there.
I might have to step back from Tremont Street to avoid noise or traffic, but I could probably do it from nearby and keep it in the background. We'll see.
Yeah, you're right there on historic grounds. That's insane. That's top flight right there. So, folks, that is coming there. We're going to talk about that great Criterion Club there for sure. So, no, I look forward to that. Random. So we're gonna do it for sure. So look for that next week. Shout out Jay Gibson came through. Jay Gibson TWT. So salute there to you, Jay Gibson. Appreciate you dropping by there. Dan mentions I don't care for the Klitschko's. Oh yeah, they kind of hit it bitch for different folks. But yeah, solid fighters for sure there. Marvin Hagler and Bobby Seals. So good one there. Good one
That's
there.
another question. Where, if anywhere, do they show up? One or both the Klitschko brothers.
So yeah, that's an interesting one right there. Ken and Frank Shamrock. Oh yeah, yeah. So, they were adopted. But it still counts.
Oh yeah, they're not blood brothers, but they're brothers.
I guess it still counts. But yeah, they were adopted. So yeah, it's very interesting. But no, that's good stuff there, Dan. So with Criterion Club next week, folks. So be on the lookout for that that live sort of depiction or whatever, or the loading or preloaded thing. So we're gonna shoot for that. The thumbnail and all that stuff. So next Wednesday we'll shoot for 6 p.m. Eastern time, since we've kind of locked it in that time frame. So be on the lookout there, my people. So we'll do the thing. But Random, man, I appreciate you taking the time, of course, per usual. Drop by the show, delve into this boxing history. We give you nearly 3 hours of boxing history discussion here and there, generally around the English world there, folks. But we'll have to do this again. I think we just only hit the surface level because there are so many English fighters that are out there, but we touched on some of the memorable ones that are in the mix, but I know we didn't nearly touch on all of them that are out there. So hey, maybe there will be a part 2 somewhere down the road there. But we thank everyone for being in the mix there with us as we've gone through this. Dan mentions thanks a lot, Josh and Random. This was great. Yeah, Random, always great having you on here, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. This is a good time. And yes, it's like, we can't remember everything. I certainly don't know everything. But it's just an ongoing effort to keep the memory of the history of the sport alive, because though there are some entities doing it, but a lot of how these things survive is by people talking about it.
Yeah, hey, we got to keep doing it.
So that's really the spirit of what's being done, is just academic discovery and enhancement, and enrichment collectively. So appreciate everyone pitching in information with the questions. It's a group effort, and just want to thank everyone for listening. This was good stuff. I'm looking forward to the Criterion thing. I think you'll all be surprised, all kinds of what they fit into that.
It'll be a good one there. Criterion Club, folks.
So 3 months.
Yeah.
Especially if you think today about a boxing promoter.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about all these events they put on. Not all of them had prelims. Sometimes it was just a fight, just the main fight. So
yeah,
I was just going to talk about the main events. None of the prelims in the cards that had them were interesting, but
yeah. So no, that works there for sure. So no, we're gonna do the thing there. So we appreciate it. We appreciate everyone. Josh Taylor in the mix there as well. Everyone that dropped through. Remy came through, showed love, all that good stuff. Hey, we'll be back next week, folks. So we look forward to you all coming through. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week and weekend. Some boxing coming up this weekend, folks. Shout out to all those that are gonna be fighting this weekend as well. Jakeem Hutcherson, he's gonna be fighting. I'll be at that card there on Saturday. But in the meantime, hey, we'll get up with you all. So enjoy the rest of your night, folks, and take care for sure.
Yeah, take care, everybody.